Picture this: you walk into a room, heart pounding, ready to speak. Maybe it's a meeting, a first date, or a stage with 100 eyes waiting. You open your mouth, and in that split second, one of two things happens. You either pull people closer, or you lose them. That's the magic, and the danger, of communication. Words can build bridges or burn them. They can start wars or end them. They can open doors, win trust, spark love, or silence a room. Every time you speak, you're planting seeds. Some grow into connections, others into regrets. The truth is, most of us were never taught how to truly communicate. Sure, we learned grammar, vocabulary, maybe even debate in school. But no one pulled us aside to explain the psychology of presence, the art of making words land, or the subtle science behind why some people are listened to while others are ignored. That's what this book is about. It's not about sounding perfect or memorizing clever tricks. It's about speaking smart, in a way that feels natural, human, and unforgettable. I'll show you the hidden patterns behind powerful communication, why first impressions happen in seconds, how stories bypass logic and go straight to the heart, and what makes someone's words stick long after the sound has faded. This is not theory for the sake of theory. You'll find real stories, practical tools, and exercises you can start using immediately. By the end, you'll have not just knowledge, but a new way of showing up in every conversation. More confident, magnetic, and clear. So, let's begin. Together, we're going to unlock the voice you've always had inside you, the one the world is waiting to hear. Written and published by Mindful Literary. Introduction: Why Words Shape Worlds. A story of how one phrase changed history. On June 4, 1940, as World War II darkened the skies over Europe, Winston Churchill delivered a speech that would echo through history. In the stark context of the Dunkirk evacuation, he declared, "We shall fight on the beaches." This phrase cut through the despair of that moment. It wasn't just a statement, it was a lifeline thrown to a population on the brink of surrender. Churchill's words breathed life into the spirit of a nation that faced possible annihilation. His voice rang with unyielding resolve, stoking a fiery determination in the hearts of citizens and soldiers alike. The simplicity of this phrase had an extraordinary impact, galvanizing a country and shaping the course of the war. Words possess a unique power. They can ignite courage, create movements, and change the course of history. Churchill understood this well. His choice of language wasn't just about delivering information, it was about stirring emotions. Each carefully selected word served a purpose, painting a picture of resilience and hope. The phrase "we shall fight on the beaches" transformed from mere rhetoric into a rallying cry. In moments of distress, people cling to potent expressions that resonate on a personal level. It's fascinating how one phrase can infuse strength into seemingly ordinary people, allowing them to envision themselves as part of something larger. Words are more than just sounds. They are arrows, capable of striking at the very heart of human emotion. They can build bridges or create divides. In the hands of a skilled communicator, they can become instruments that shape perceptions and inspire action. Consider other historical examples. Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" inspired a generation to strive for equality. Malala Yousafzai spoke powerfully about education, urging even the most skeptical to reconsider their stance on women's rights. These phrases resonate not only because of their content but also because of the conviction behind them. Finding the right words can be transformative. They can turn passive observers into active participants in the movement for change. Powerful speeches have a way of embedding themselves in our collective consciousness. The phrases we remember often reflect a crucial turning point or a shared struggle. They resonate with universal truths, awakening emotions that many feel but few express. Listening to Churchill's speech after the war days, one can sense the potent mix of vulnerability and strength. These are the moments that remind us of the power of language. They can turn feelings of helplessness into calls for action. As you strive to communicate more effectively, think about the phrases and messages that resonate with you. Reflect on the timing, the context, and the emotions they evoke. What passion do you want to ignite in others? Crafting a message that resonates requires an understanding of your audience and clarity in your purpose. Speak from your heart while being aware of the rhythm and flow of your words. As you write or speak, remember, you are holding a potential key to unlock hope and perseverance in someone else's life. Every phrase has the power to inspire. It's up to you to find those words that will spark change. Why communication is power in today's world. Words are more than just sounds or scribbles on a page. They are the building blocks of everything we understand about each other and the world we live in. When you speak, write, or listen, you're using tools that shape how people see you and how they react. Think about a time when a single sentence changed how you felt about someone, or opened a door you didn't expect. That's the force of communication in action. It creates connections, builds trust, and can stretch across cultures and technologies to shape opinions and spark ideas. The way you express yourself sends signals not only about what you think but also who you are. When you choose your words carefully, you wield influence. When you listen well, you gain insight that can turn chance moments into meaningful opportunities. In today's world, where information flows faster than ever and distractions multiply, communication is not just a skill, it is a tremendous source of power. People who can communicate well don't just share ideas. They inspire change, draw others in, and claim their place in any conversation that matters. Social media, emails, video calls, all these tools amplify or muffle your voice. The command over your message becomes your ability to stand out and be heard amid the noise. The power of communication also lies in its ability to build relationships, whether between friends, teams, or entire communities. When you communicate clearly and with intention, you make others feel seen and understood, fostering connections that create support, influence, and trust. That trust lets you lead, persuade, and make things happen faster and smoother than relying on force or chance alone. Look around and you'll notice that today's leaders, creators, and changemakers often share one trait: communication mastery. Their words create movements, solve conflicts, and open negotiations. But communication isn't limited to speeches or presentations. It's in the everyday exchanges where your true power lies. The casual question that turns a stranger into a friend, the honest feedback that builds respect, or the way you tell your story to capture attention, all these moments shape outcomes. When you own your voice, you are no longer invisible or overlooked. You shape your image, influence your environment, and have a hand in shaping your future. If you've ever fumbled for words or wished you could articulate exactly what you mean, that discomfort is the shadow side of communication's power. The good news: every awkward moment is a stepping stone toward confidence and clarity. Here's a practical way to feel more powerful with your words. Before speaking or writing, take a breath and ask yourself what your goal is. Are you trying to connect, inform, persuade, or inspire? Keeping your intention in mind will help you choose words that cut through noise instead of adding to it. Also, listen as if your chance to contribute depends on really understanding what's said, not just waiting for your turn. Communication power doesn't just come from talking well. It's rooted in listening deeply and responding thoughtfully. When you practice that, you build a magnetic presence that draws people in rather than pushes them away. It doesn't take fancy techniques or perfect grammar. It takes attention, honesty, and a readiness to step up and be heard on your own terms. The book's promise: learn the psychology behind speech that connects and persuades. Words are powerful tools. They shape how others view us, influence their feelings, and can even change their actions. When we speak, it's not just about the words themselves but about how those words land inside someone's mind. A single well-chosen phrase can spark trust, ignite curiosity, or dissolve resistance. The secret lies in understanding that language isn't just a means of exchanging information. It's a way of tapping into human psychology. When you realize how to craft your words with this deep awareness, conversations transform into opportunities to build genuine connections and influence without coming across as pushy. Understanding what makes speech persuasive is like discovering a hidden code that unlocks human reactions. It's awareness of how people process information, their emotional triggers, and their subconscious biases. For example, using stories instead of dry facts activates parts of the brain responsible for empathy and emotion, making your message more memorable. Recognizing cues like tone, pacing, or even pauses can help you control the rhythm of your conversation in a way that draws people in. Knowing that perceptions are fragile and easily influenced means your words can shape beliefs and attitudes more powerfully than you might have imagined. This isn't about trickery but about mastering the art of speaking that resonates deeply with human nature. At its heart, Effective speech boils down to understanding human motivation and needs. People want to feel understood, valued, and safe. When your words reflect genuine attention to their desires, you create an environment where trust can grow. Think of your words as tiny seeds. You plant them carefully, knowing which soil they'll flourish in. Whether you're trying to inspire action, ease concerns, or simply connect on a personal level, it's the psychological underpinnings that turn a forgettable chat into an influential exchange. Learning these principles turns ordinary conversations into powerful moments where your message sticks and your influence grows naturally, without forcing or manipulation. Every word then becomes a key that opens hearts and minds. When you begin to see speech through the lens of psychology, a new world opens up. Talking isn't just about transmitting information, it's about shaping perceptions and guiding emotions. This shift allows you to recognize which words cause a ripple of positive feelings or spark doubt where trust is needed most. For example, framing a suggestion as an opportunity rather than a demand makes people more receptive. Recognizing that each individual's mind works with its own filters, biases, and habits means you can tailor your approach for different personalities. This understanding turns conversations from a simple exchange into a dance where you lead gently, knowing exactly what moves will get the desired response. Transforming conversations also means using language that aligns with how the mind naturally processes information. People tend to respond better when they feel seen and heard, rather than lectured or dismissed. Your choice of words, tone, and structure, like asking questions instead of commanding, can make the other person more open and willing to listen. When you realize that persuasion isn't about convincing someone to agree but about guiding their own thoughts, your approach shifts from pushy to compelling. With awareness of psychological triggers, you can craft your speech so it echoes what the other person already secretly wants to believe, making agreement feel like a natural conclusion rather than a fight to be won. Over time, practicing this understanding of psychology turns speech into a tool that fosters genuine influence. Instead of relying solely on facts or charm, you learn to resonate on a deeper level, creating trust and rapport. Your words start to feel less like manipulation and more like a natural sharing of insights that resonate personally. When you focus on the connection behind the words, persuasion becomes less about persuasion and more about aligning your message with what someone truly values. This approach makes your influence stick longer because it's rooted in a real understanding of human inner worlds, not just superficial tactics. A simple tip to start practicing this is to pause before speaking. Give yourself a moment to consider what the other person needs to hear, not just what you want to say. When you speak with genuine intent to connect and help, your words naturally become more persuasive. In essence, every conversation is an opportunity to plant seeds of understanding that can grow into trust, influence, or even loyalty. The more you practice tuning into psychological cues, the more natural this skill becomes. Remember, words aren't just what you say, they're what others hear, feel, and carry with them long after the conversation ends. Chapter 1. The First Impression Blueprint. The Science of First Impressions, Thin Slicing, Subconscious Judgments. First impressions are immediate and powerful. Studies show that our brains are wired to form snap judgments about people within mere seconds of meeting them. This quick decision-making process often relies on subconscious cues that we don't realize are shaping our views. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever met someone and immediately felt a connection or, conversely, an inexplicable discomfort? These reactions are based on microsignals such as body language, tone of voice, and even appearance. Your mind is constantly analyzing these cues, even if you're not consciously aware of it. This is an ancient survival instinct, designed to help us determine friend from foe in a fraction of a moment. Out of habit, we jump to conclusions, often placing more weight on the first impression than we might recognize. When that initial assessment is made, it can activate a sort of confirmation bias, where we unconsciously seek out information that validates our first thought. For instance, if you perceive someone as friendly, you're more likely to notice their warm gestures or smiles. If you think a person is standoffish, every crossed arm or downcast glance confirms your belief. This means the first impression sets a tone that can color all future interactions, often in a way that's hard to change. Being aware of this process doesn't just help you understand others, but also offers an opportunity for self-reflection on how you present yourself. Thin slicing refers to our ability to make quick, accurate assessments based on minimal information. It's like a snapshot of an interaction that defines how we perceive someone without knowing them deeply. According to research, thin slicing can be surprisingly reliable, as our brains can pick up on subtleties that inform our feelings about someone. For example, just a few seconds of observing a job interview might give you insights into a candidate's suitability that could take hours of conversation to unveil. This phenomenon underscores the power of nonverbal communication, how a slight smile or a firm handshake can convey confidence and warmth. If you understand how thin slicing works, you can craft openings and introductions that resonate positively. Being mindful of your body language, tone, and facial expressions allows you to navigate initial interactions thoughtfully. Imagine stepping into a room and knowing that a confident posture, authentic smile, and engaging eye contact may enhance the way others perceive you. Moreover, preparing an engaging introduction helps set the stage for meaningful conversations. A captivating opening statement or a unique personal anecdote could be just the touch to leave a memorable first impression. As we navigate daily interactions, each conversation becomes a chance to sharpen our thin slicing instincts. Engaging with different people in various scenarios, be it social gatherings, work events, or casual meetups, provides real-time practice. The key is to approach these interactions not just to impress, but to genuinely connect. Feel empowered to express yourself authentically, as this will naturally improve your chances of leaving a positive first impression. To create impactful first impressions, focus on being present and authentic in your interactions. This means paying attention not only to how you present yourself, but also to how you perceive others. Practicing mindfulness and empathy can enhance your ability to understand the unwritten cues in social situations. Ultimately, every interaction is an opportunity to tell your story. Make sure to share it clearly, with both sincerity and confidence. Why the first 7 seconds matter more than 7 minutes. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. Before you say a word, they have already started judging you. Those first moments, 7 seconds, to be exact, act as the gatekeeper to how people will perceive you. It's almost like a tiny spotlight shines on you, setting the stage before your voice even carries. This isn't just about looks, it's a silent language made up of your posture, your expression, and even your energy. People pick up on these signals instinctively, wiring trust or doubt, confidence or hesitation, attraction or dismissal, in less time than it takes to blink. This is especially true when you're trying to connect with someone or share your story. Those first seconds hold more weight than anything you might say in a long conversation or persuasive presentation. Think of it this way: if your opening isn't magnetic, listeners' minds might already be clocking out before you get a chance to build your case. Invisible yet powerful dynamics are at play here. Your quiet charisma, the subtle way you hold yourself, can either invite others in or push them away without a single word spoken. When someone sees you for the first time, their brain immediately sorts you into categories based on deep-rooted instincts formed over millennia. This wiring helps them decide if they can trust you, if you seem approachable, or if they should be on guard. That quick mental filing happens in seconds, shaping their attention and openness to engage beyond those initial moments. From a storytelling or presentation perspective, this means winning over those first seconds is like unlocking the door to deeper connection. If you can make a genuine, inviting impression that speaks volumes before your first word, you've already set yourself apart in a crowded world craving authenticity. The psychological magic behind those first impressions is surprisingly simple yet revealing. Our minds rely on snap judgments because they help us survive. When meeting someone, we don't have time to analyze every detail or carefully weigh every word. Instead, our brain scans for emotional clues: how you smile, if your eyes meet theirs, the rhythm of your breath. It's a silent conversation happening beneath the surface, and mastering this isn't about rehearsed tricks or manipulation. It's about being aware of how natural behaviors send signals to others and learning small ways to tune those signals so they say, "You can trust me," or "I'm someone you want to listen to." People often don't realize they send hundreds of these emotional pulses in just a few seconds. A quick nod, the tilt of a head, a steady gaze. Each gesture can either build a bridge or put up a wall. Research shows that when these first moments connect emotionally, the rest of the interaction tends to flow with more ease and openness. That's why some people feel magnetic without even trying, while others struggle to hold attention despite well-prepared words. The invisible chemistry begins before anyone speaks. It's the opening note that sets the entire melody. Knowing this, you can start to shift how you approach every initial meeting or the first line of your speech. Instead of rushing into your message, pay attention to creating a presence that invites curiosity. Imagine your first 7 seconds as a spark that lights a candle. If you smile warmly, meet eyes confidently, and let your body relax just enough to be approachable, you're already planting an invitation to stay and listen. It's like opening a book with a sentence so rich and compelling that readers feel they have no choice but to keep turning pages. No amount of 7-minute explanations can replace the magnetic pull of those crucial first 7 seconds. Next time you step into a space or reach for the microphone, try this simple exercise. Take a deep breath, ground yourself in the moment, and be conscious of what you are communicating before you say anything. Notice the impact of your silence and body language. Remember, words are powerful, but the charm of your presence, your quiet confidence, is the key that unlocks attention in those first fleeting moments. Practical tools: posture, voice tone, opening lines. Your posture is the foundation of every interaction. When you stand tall with shoulders back and head high, you instantly signal confidence and openness. Slouching or shrinking into yourself, on the other hand, often makes others feel you're unsure or uninterested. Think of your body as a relay runner. Every gesture and stance sends a message to the world. Simple adjustments, like keeping your chest slightly forward and relaxing your hands, can make you seem more approachable and self-assured. It's not about perfection but about authenticity. Being present in your body helps others connect with your sincerity. Voice tone is like the flavor of your words. How you say things often matters more than what you say. A warm, steady voice conveys trust. A sharp or shaky one might give off nervous energy. Control over your voice adds a layer of authority and kindness that can draw people in. Practice speaking at a slightly slower pace than usual. It gives your words space to resonate and shows you're in control. Vary your tone to match the moment, raising your voice slightly during a key point or softening it to show empathy. These subtle shifts act like music, guiding your listeners' emotions and building a stronger connection. Opening lines are the handshake of your words, the first impression you give during a conversation or presentation. A good opener grabs attention without being over the top. Instead of starting with a generic hi, try something specific that relates to the situation. For example, "That's an interesting point. What made it stand out to you?" Or, "I was just thinking about how this project could change things." The key is authenticity. Speak naturally and with curiosity. This approach immediately invites others into a dialogue instead of a monologue, showing that you're engaged and eager to listen or share. Crafting these first words with care turns an ordinary start into a memorable introduction that commands respect. One straightforward step is to practice standing in front of a mirror, paying close attention to your posture. Take a deep breath, roll your shoulders back, and imagine a string gently pulling you upwards from the top of your head. Notice how your body feels more open and relaxed. Repeat this regularly, before meetings or even casual conversations, to build a natural habit of confident body language. For voice practice, try reading aloud with intention. Pick a paragraph, but focus on keeping your tone warm, steady, and expressive. Notice how adjusting your pitch or pace changes how persuasive or friendly you sound. Over time, this becomes second nature, and your voice will carry more authority without sounding forced. To sharpen your opening lines, rehearse a few simple, authentic phrases suited to different scenarios. Think about what naturally sparks curiosity or shows genuine interest. For example, when meeting someone new, instead of a generic "nice to meet you," try "I've been curious about your take on this project," something that invites dialogue. Practice these phrases out loud, tweaking them until they feel natural. Record yourself and listen. This helps you notice your tone, pace, and whether you sound as engaging as you want. The more you practice these tools, the more instinctive they become, transforming ordinary encounters into opportunities to demonstrate confidence and warmth. Remember, every interaction is a chance to use your body and voice to leave a lasting impression. Before walking into a room, check your posture, take a few calming breaths, and choose your opening line with intent. These small, conscious choices create a ripple effect, making you feel more in control and making others more eager to engage with you. Even on challenging days, these simple shifts remind you that confidence isn't about perfection but about showing up as your most genuine self, strong, sincere, and ready to be heard. Chapter 2. The Psychology of Connection. How the brain responds to similarity, warmth, and mirroring. Our brains are wired for connection. From the moment we're born, we look for familiarity, warmth, and shared experiences. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. The instant you spot someone wearing the same shirt as you or who shares a mutual friend, there's an immediate sense of comfort. It's like an invisible thread pulls you together. This is not just coincidence. It's how our brain operates in search of safety and affinity. When we see traits in others similar to our own, our brain releases feel-good chemicals, such as oxytocin, fostering trust and openness. The familiarity acts like a warm blanket, making interactions smoother and more genuine. The quest for similarity transcends mere appearance. It encompasses shared interests, values, and even storytelling. Think about the last time someone related a personal story to you, and you found a sliver of your own experience intertwined in their narrative. This connection doesn't happen by chance. Our brains are constantly scanning for those similarities, allowing us to relate and empathize instantaneously. It's the spark that ignites deeper conversation and understanding. Mirroring is like a dance we often perform unconsciously. You might notice it during a conversation when the other person begins to adopt your gestures or facial expressions. This isn't mere mimicry. It's a subconscious way our brains communicate that we're in sync. Reflecting someone else's body language can boost feelings of empathy and connection. A simple nod of agreement or a smile mirroring theirs elevates interaction, creating an unspoken bond that makes both parties feel seen and understood. In your everyday conversations, practice being aware of the similarities and differences present. Are there moments where you can reflect back what you see or feel from the other person? This simple act of mirroring their expressions or sentiments can turn a mundane chat into a profound encounter. The more you engage with this practice, the more natural it feels, and you may notice that others start to mirror you in return, nurturing a connection that's both deep and genuine. The role of empathy in making people feel seen. Picture a moment when you shared something personal, maybe a worry or a small joy, only to be met with distracted nods or quick changes of subject. That sting of feeling invisible, like your words floated into a void, is something nearly all of us have faced. Now imagine the same conversation flipped. Someone leans in, their eyes warming with quiet attention, their body leaning just a little closer, their voice soft and steady as they mirror back what you're saying. Suddenly, that rushed exchange turns into something alive and calm. That shift, from being glanced over to being truly seen, often begins with a single ingredient: empathy. Empathy isn't about having all the answers or fixing someone's troubles on the spot. It's the simple but profound act of tuning in, catching the emotional frequency that another person is broadcasting without words. When someone responds to your feelings with genuine care, it builds a bridge over the gap of loneliness, awkwardness, or misunderstanding. This kind of presence can turn a surface-level "how are you?" into a conversation where you're not just heard but felt. It reminds us that we are not alone in our experiences, that someone else has stepped into our shoes, however briefly, and acknowledged us as a whole person. That transformation happens because empathy invites vulnerability and trust. I've been there, stumbling through a conversation, heart racing, afraid I'd say the wrong thing or get laughed off. But when the other person didn't rush me or judge me, something changed. I started to relax, to share more honestly, and I could see it happening to them too. Empathy flips the usual script of talking at someone into a dance where listening leads the way. It's like turning the volume up on connection, so even the quietest parts of what we're feeling get noticed and honored. There's a fascinating dance going on inside our brains whenever we experience empathy. Imagine your brain has tiny wiring that lights up when you see someone else's feelings. These are called mirror neurons. They jump into action like little empathy messengers, mirroring the emotions and states of others. When you watch a friend's face tighten with worry or their smile brighten, your brain actually simulates that feeling. It's as if a neurological echo is generated, allowing you to step into their emotional world without leaving your own. This automatic, biological response plants the seeds for connection and understanding. When someone genuinely tunes into your emotions, you don't just hear words, you feel them. Your brain responds by releasing oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, which fosters trust and safety. This chemical reaction calms your nervous system, making you feel more open and less defensive. Empathy doesn't just help you decode feelings, it invites your whole body to relax into the exchange. This makes the other person feel deeply recognized, as if they've been seen through a kind, powerful lens that acknowledges who they really are beneath the surface. It's no surprise then that empathy is the foundation of what makes relationships thrive. When both people feel seen, heard, and understood, it creates a loop of mutual respect and care. Conversations stop feeling like performances and start to feel like shared spaces where truths can be spoken without fear. This emotional resonance isn't a skill reserved for counselors or therapists, it's wired into all of us. Practicing it in everyday moments reshapes how we connect, making others feel valued in the purest way words can manage. When you listen with empathy, it's like giving someone a mirror that reflects their feelings clearly and kindly. You don't have to provide solutions or jump in with your own stories right away. Instead, focus on being present. Notice their tone, their hesitations, the little things their words might be hiding. Sometimes, all it takes is a pause and a soft "that sounds really tough" or "I can imagine that" made you happy to transform the interaction from routine to meaningful. This simple recognition sends a powerful message: I'm here with you, and I care. It might help to slow down and check in with yourself mid-conversation. Are you waiting for your turn to speak or truly absorbing what the other person is sharing? Empathy asks you to shift your focus outside of yourself and center the other's experience. This can feel unfamiliar or awkward at first, especially if you're used to rushing through social exchanges or cloudy with self-consciousness. But empathy isn't perfection, it's intention, showing up and being willing to see someone as they are even if you don't have all the answers. Giving someone your full attention might take a bit of practice in today's distracted world, but the payoff is enormous. When you make another person feel genuinely seen, their walls come down, conversations open up, and relationships grow richer. Imagine each moment of empathy as planting a tiny seed of belonging that can bloom long after the words have ended. That seed nourishes confidence, heals old hurts, and invites deeper, truer connections into your life. Next time you find yourself in a conversation where someone is sharing something personal, try this. Instead of jumping in with advice or changing the subject, reflect back what you hear in your own words. You might say, "It seems like that was really hard for you," or "I hear how excited you are about that." This kind of feedback shows you're tuned in emotionally, not just listening to the words but catching the feeling behind them. Notice how the conversation shifts when you do this. It might be subtle or surprising, but those few extra moments of presence often make the other person feel not just heard, but truly seen. Exercises. Active listening techniques that make others lean in. When you truly listen, you're not just waiting for your turn to speak. You're creating a space where the other person feels genuinely seen and understood. This makes your words carry more weight, simply because you're giving your full attention without distraction. As a result, what might have been a casual chat turns into a meaningful exchange that deepens trust. People naturally lean in when they feel their words matter, and they sense your curiosity and care. It's like throwing a bridge across a gap. The more you listen actively, the closer and more connected the relationship becomes, often without realizing it. Practicing skills such as mirroring involves subtly repeating some of the words or phrases the other person just said. It shows you're paying attention and makes them feel validated. Paraphrasing means rephrasing what you hear into your own words, like saying, "So, what you're saying is," which lets them know you understand and encourages them to clarify if needed. Sometimes, simply staying silent after someone finishes speaking can speak volumes. It gives them space to add more or express their feelings more openly. These small actions seem simple but serve as anchors, pulling the conversation into a more genuine connection, inviting others to lean into the dialogue rather than pull away. Using pauses intentionally can feel awkward at first, but it creates room for the other person to fill the silence with more honesty or details. For example, after someone shares a story, holding a brief pause shows you're considering what they said, rather than rushing to respond. Open-ended questions like "How did that make you feel?" or "What happened next?" invite them to open up more deeply. These kinds of questions transform a surface-level exchange into a journey where both of you uncover new layers. The secret is to stay curious and patient. Trust that your calm presence will encourage others to lean in, revealing more of their true thoughts and feelings. Remember, the real power of active listening lies not just in techniques but in your genuine desire to understand. Keep your focus on the person in front of you, breathe deeply, and let your mind stay open. That authentic interest naturally draws others closer, because inside, everyone longs to feel understood. When you listen this way, words become bridges, not barriers, that lead to real connection and trust. Chapter 3. Words that influence. Language patterns that shape thought. Framing, priming, reframing. Framing your words can dramatically shape how people perceive your message, making it a potent tool in communication. Think of framing like the edges of a photograph. It determines what the viewer focuses on. For instance, when you describe a project as an exciting opportunity instead of a difficult challenge, you immediately set a more positive tone. This shift in language influences how others feel and respond. People interpret information through the lens you provide, which can inspire them or cause hesitation. So, when you choose your words carefully, you're not just talking, you're sculpting perspectives and guiding emotions. The concept of framing extends into everyday situations, from casual conversations to professional pitches. Consider the difference in response when saying, "You'll save 20% on your bill" versus, "You'll still pay 80% of your bill." The first phrasing highlights a gain, while the second emphasizes a loss. This subtle play on language can influence decision-making and even affect relationships. When communicating ideas, framing doesn't just convey information, it carries emotional weight, driving each interaction toward a specific direction. Reframing and priming are two closely related concepts that can open doors to better conversations and understanding. Reframing takes a situation or an idea and provides a new angle, helping others to see it in a different light. Imagine you're discussing a setback at work. If you present it as a learning experience rather than a failure, you invite others to view it positively while empowering both yourself and the audience to learn and grow. This shift not only eases discomfort but can also foster a sense of camaraderie. Priming works a bit like a mental warm-up, preparing individuals to respond in a certain way based on cues you've introduced. If someone enters a conversation anticipating collaboration, they're more likely to engage openly. For example, using generous terms like team and together primes individuals for cooperative dialogue. Both reframing and priming empower you to facilitate connection and influence how people perceive their circumstances and each other. By using these techniques, you can encourage others to enter discussions with more openness and enthusiasm, reshaping not just conversations but relationships. Mastering framing, reframing, and priming can seem overwhelming, but with practice, it can feel as natural as breathing. When you find yourself in a conversation, try to identify the underlying frame or lens through which you and the other person are operating. Ask yourself what feelings and reactions your words might stir and consider how you could gently shift the frame. Think about the power of a simple change in wording or a new perspective. This practice not only enhances your communication skills but also enriches your relationships, leaving others feeling heard and valued. Why metaphors are the brain's favorite shortcut. Metaphors are like secret passageways in the mind, effortlessly linking what we already know to what we're trying to understand. When someone says, "Time is a thief," you don't reach for a stopwatch or a policeman. You instantly feel the sneaky, fleeting nature of moments slipping away. This connection happens because metaphors tap into our stored experiences, using vivid images to unlock meaning without waiting for dry explanations to catch up. Our brains crave shortcuts, especially when faced with abstract or new concepts, and metaphors offer a kind of mental elevator that saves us from climbing endless stairs of confusion. Think about how often we describe emotions or ideas as physical things: a heavy heart, a light bulb moment, or breaking the ice. These phrases are really our brain's way of moving information from unfamiliar territory into places it recognizes instantly. They create mental maps that shortcut through layers of complexity, allowing us to grasp tough ideas quickly. Without metaphors, we'd probably wade through dense explanations, straining to piece together meaning rather than having it handed to us in a snap. It's like your brain prefers stories or images that feel alive, over a dry list of facts that might as well be in a foreign language. A metaphor is not just poetic fluff, it's a workhorse in how we think. When a teacher explains gravity by saying it's like a magnet pulling things down, the kids don't need years of physics to begin understanding it. Their imaginations fill in gaps, weaving new knowledge with their daily reality. This mental shortcut actually frees up brainpower, allowing us to focus on bigger questions instead of getting stuck on the basics. So when you use metaphors, you're not just dressing up your words, you're handing your listener keys to a mental door that opens faster and wider than literal language ever could. The magic of metaphors isn't just in how pretty they sound. Deep inside the brain, our neural circuits are wired to respond to stories and pictures much more than to plain facts or data. Research shows that when we hear a metaphor, areas linked to sensory and motor experiences light up, as if we're tasting, seeing, or even touching what's being described. That means metaphors engage us on more than just a thinking level. They invite the whole body and emotion into the conversation. It's why phrases like grasping an idea feel so on point. Your brain actually activates regions related to physical grabbing as you process the thought. This intertwining of language with sensation makes metaphors powerful tools for influence. Political speeches, advertising, even everyday conversations rely on this hidden effect to stick in the mind and stir feelings. When you tell someone their mind is a garden, you don't just describe their mental state. You suggest seeds that can grow, weeds to pull, and fertile soil to nurture. Suddenly, the listener becomes a gardener of their own thoughts, which feels personal and activating. This transformation from flat words to lived experience is why metaphors linger longer in memory and shape our attitudes without us realizing it. Our brains also use metaphors to bridge gaps between people. When someone shares a metaphor that feels familiar, it creates a silent agreement, a shared perspective that says, "I get you." It softens distance and invites empathy by translating complicated or uncomfortable feelings into relatable pictures. This connection is the heartbeat of storytelling, where we're drawn into someone else's world with a phrase that resonates like an inside joke or a shared secret. Without metaphors, much of our emotional language would stay locked behind walls of uncertainty, making genuine understanding much harder to reach. If you want your words to carry weight, think of metaphors as your allies. They turn abstract ideas into tangible experiences, helping you cut through noise and confusion. Next time you want to explain something tricky, try reaching for an image or a story that your listener already knows. You'll find that the brain, hungry for shortcuts, quickly catches on, and your message lands not just in their ears, but in their hearts and hands too. Phrases that persuade versus phrases that push people away. When you speak in ways that make others feel respected and appreciated, you invite cooperation instead of resistance. Words that suggest partnership, like "let's figure this out together" or "what do you think about trying this," create a feeling of teamwork. They don't push or demand. Instead, they open a door for dialogue. People want to feel heard and valued, not coerced or dismissed. When your language honors their perspective, they're more likely to stay open and engaged, turning what could be a confrontation into a shared effort. Recognize that our words shape how others see us and how they respond. Instead of making statements that come across as commands or ultimatums, choose phrases that imply mutual benefit. For example, saying "how about we approach this from a fresh angle" suggests collaboration. These phrases act as gentle nudges, not loud shouts. They send a message, "I respect you, and I believe we can find a good solution together." By framing conversations around partnership, you subtly build trust and openness rather than walls and defenses. It's about striking a balance between assertiveness and kindness. Think of your words as planting seeds of cooperation rather than throwing bricks of pressure. When you focus on solutions, shared goals, and understanding, your language becomes a bridge rather than a barrier. Asking questions instead of giving orders creates a space for others to feel safe and valued. Over time, these small shifts in how you phrase things can dramatically change the tone of your interactions, making collaboration feel natural and easy rather than forced or awkward. Sometimes, words meant to persuade can actually push people away if they carry hidden pressure or judgment. Phrases like "you should do this" or "if you don't agree, that's your choice" sound confident but can make the other person feel judged or dismissed. These words can trigger defensiveness, shutting down open conversation. People are more receptive when they're not made to feel wrong or blamed. Instead, language that assumes partnership and understanding helps prevent resistance from creeping in. Be cautious of language that sounds like ultimatums or final judgments. Saying "you need to see it my way" seems forceful, even if that's not the intent. It creates a feeling of opposition. On the other hand, softening phrases like "let's look at this together" or "can we find a way that works for both of us" open the door to genuine dialogue. When your words are humble and inclusive, others are more likely to relax and consider your point without feeling attacked. The small choices in how you frame suggestions can make a huge difference in avoiding building walls instead of bridges. Notice how your tone and word choice impact the response you get. Instead of framing things as conflicts to be won, think of your language as a way to understand and be understood. Avoid exclusivity, words like you always or you never tend to offend. Instead, focus on specific behaviors or feelings, like I noticed this happen, or I feel concerned about. Those are less likely to provoke defensiveness. The key is to create an environment where the other person feels safe to express themselves, even if they disagree. This subtle shift in words often transforms a tug-of-war into a mutual dance. One practical tip is to pause and reflect on your words before speaking. Ask yourself, am I inviting understanding or escalating tension? Small adjustments, like replacing "you didn't do this right" with "let's see how we can do this better," change the emotional tone completely. When you approach conversations with curiosity rather than certainty, your words become tools for connection, not division. Over time, this mindful habit allows you to communicate more persuasively while maintaining genuine rapport. Chapter 4. Storytelling as a Superpower. Why stories bypass logic and go straight to emotion. Stories have an incredible ability to reach straight into our emotional core, bypassing the filters that logic tends to create. When a compelling narrative unfolds, it engages our hearts before our minds even get a chance to analyze it. Think about a time when you were captivated by a story, perhaps a film that made you laugh and cry in the span of a single scene. That's the magic of storytelling. It speaks to our shared human experience, sparking something deep within us. In the heat of a well-told tale, our hearts start racing, and our minds become less critical. Suddenly, we're not just observers but participants in the journey. This connection can form the bedrock of how we relate to one another and understand the world around us. Many of us can recall tall tales told around a campfire or bedtime stories shared with loved ones. These anecdotes resonate because they touch on primal emotions: joy, fear, love, and sorrow. Our brains are hardwired to respond to these feelings. When we hear a story that reflects our own struggles or joys, we see ourselves in it. This isn't just emotional fluff, it's rooted in our psychology. Studies show that when we hear stories, our brains produce oxytocin, the chemical associated with empathy and connection. This makes us more open and vulnerable, ready to form bonds with the storyteller and even with one another through shared experiences. To harness the power of storytelling in communication, consider this: the best stories have a structure that engages the listener from beginning to end. They often involve relatable characters facing challenges and evolving through their journeys. By tapping into universal themes, like the quest for love, redemption, or triumph against adversity, you can create a narrative that resonates. Whether you're crafting a marketing pitch, giving a speech, or simply sharing your day with friends, integrate personal anecdotes or relatable examples into your dialogue. This creates a bridge of understanding, inviting others to join you on the emotional journey you're providing. The psychological mechanisms behind storytelling are fascinating and vary widely. For one, our brains engage in a type of neural coupling when we hear stories, meaning our brainwaves sync with those of the storyteller. This helps foster a deep understanding and emotional connection. When we relate to characters and their journeys, our own experiences blend with theirs, allowing us to experience complex emotions without risk. The truth is that storytelling can be a healing process, allowing us to confront our feelings and experiences in a safe context. Remember, a story is more than just words. It's a bridge that connects people, emotions, and experiences. Experiment with storytelling by weaving narratives into your everyday communication. Think about how you present information, whether in conversation or writing. Rather than just stating facts, consider how you can build a story around them that evokes emotions. For instance, instead of simply saying you achieved a goal, share the challenges you faced and how those obstacles changed you. Invite the listener to step into your shoes, feel the stakes, and celebrate the journey with you. This approach not only makes your communication more impactful but also enhances interpersonal relationships. The next time you're crafting a message, be it for work, friendships, or social gatherings, try to lead with a story. Start with a hook that draws your audience in, presenting a narrative that evokes emotional responses. Allow your words to flow in a way that sparks curiosity, prompting listeners to invest themselves in what follows. By prioritizing emotional engagement over logical precision, you invite others into a shared human experience that bolsters connections and understanding. Explore this new way of communicating and watch how it transforms your interactions for the better. The three-part story formula: struggle, insight, triumph. Stories have a special kind of power, one that grabs you by the heart and refuses to let go. When you shape your message around the struggle, insight, and triumph pattern, you're doing more than just telling a tale, you're creating an experience. This formula turns everyday events into something memorable because it mirrors the way we all move through challenges, learn, and grow. Think about the stories that stick with you, the ones where someone faces a tough moment, realizes something that changes everything, and then comes out victorious. Those stories connect because struggle isn't foreign to anyone. Insight sparks curiosity and hope, showing there's a way forward. Triumph offers the kind of payoff that inspires and reminds us of what's possible. Underneath the surface, this pattern taps into how our brains respond to stories. When we hear about struggle, our neurons activate empathy, like we're walking in those shoes. Then insight triggers a reward system, a little mental pat on the back for learning something new. Finally, triumph releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical, creating that satisfying closure we all crave. This isn't just storytelling fairy dust, it's how human beings are wired to find meaning. When you frame your stories this way, you invite your listeners to not just hear but to feel and remember. No fluff, no detours, just a clear rhythm that holds attention and builds connection. Imagine you're sharing a personal story about a tough time on stage where your voice trembled and words stumbled. You start with the raw struggle, the knot in your stomach, the silence that screamed louder than your lines. Then, the insight, realizing that everyone else in the room wasn't perfect either, that the fear was normal and could be tamed. Finally, the triumph. You delivered the next speech with confidence, not because the fear vanished, but because you learned to carry it differently. Sharing stories this way makes your message unforgettable, not because it's dramatic, but because it's real and human. When stories follow this path, they don't just inform, they inspire people to believe in their own potential. Pinpointing the struggle in your story means being honest about what didn't go right, what felt uncomfortable or uncertain. This is often the hardest part because no one wants to admit to failure or mess-ups. But struggle isn't weakness, it's the hook that pulls your listener or reader in. Picture the last time you felt completely stuck or awkward. That feeling is your ticket to connection. Once you name it clearly, you've got the first piece of the puzzle. Next comes insight, which is the moment when something clicks, when your perspective shifts or you gain understanding. This isn't about having a magic answer, but showing the moment you learned to see things differently. It could be a small detail, a conversation, or even a realization that life isn't perfect, and that's okay. Triumph doesn't have to mean fame, riches, or big victory. It can be as simple as taking one step forward with more courage or kindness than before. Your triumph is the positive turn that balances the struggle and insight, giving your story hope and energy. When you weave these parts together, your story becomes a kind of blueprint that others recognize and respond to. It takes you from just recounting events to crafting a narrative that builds trust and moves people emotionally. Your story becomes a tool, not just for connection, but for persuasion and self-confidence because you're showing a path through difficulty towards growth. Try this. Think of a recent experience that tested you. What was your struggle? See if you can identify the moment when you understood something new about yourself or the situation. Then find how you moved forward, even if the progress was small. When you tell that story, lean into the feelings at each stage and trust that your honesty will draw others in. This approach works because it respects the intelligence and emotions of your audience, inviting them to join you in the story rather than just listening from the outside. Your own voice, with its quirks and stumbles, becomes your most magnetic tool when you tell stories this way. Examples from leaders, teachers, and everyday life. Some of the most memorable leaders of history have used stories to move people. Think of Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech or Nelson Mandela sharing tales of hope and resilience. They didn't just deliver facts and figures, they painted pictures with their words that stirred emotions and sparked actions. Teachers do this too, subtly weaving lessons into stories that help students see themselves in the narrative, making concepts stick far better than dry explanations. For everyday people, the power of story often shows up when sharing a personal experience that resonates, like describing a tough moment at work to inspire change or connecting with others over a shared challenge. Stories turn ordinary words into bridges that cross gaps of understanding and empathy, bringing listeners closer to the message and the messenger. Storytelling isn't just a fancy skill reserved for famous speeches or classroom lessons. It's a natural, human way we connect. When you tell a story about a challenge you've faced or a lesson you've learned, you pull others into your world. That makes your message real, memorable, and often more persuasive than simply listing facts. Leaders often share stories of their failures before successes, showing humility and resilience. Teachers use anecdotes to make complex ideas relatable. Even in everyday life, people who tell compelling stories tend to get their point across with more influence, whether convincing a friend to try something new or inspiring a colleague to rally behind an idea. Knowing how to craft and share your stories is like carrying a secret key to unlock trust and connection in almost any situation. If you want to start telling better stories, pay attention to your own experiences. Think about moments in your life when things changed, those tiny or big events that changed your outlook. Practice turning those moments into stories by asking yourself, what happened? How did I feel? What did I learn? By framing your experiences this way, you create stories that reveal your values and feelings. Another trick is to focus on specific details that paint a clear picture, what you saw, heard, or felt. These details make your stories more vivid and relatable. As you practice, notice how stories naturally become more engaging, and your confidence in sharing them grows. Remember, stories don't need to be perfect. They just need to feel true, like a conversation rather than a speech, and the magic happens when others see their own reflection in your tale. Chapter 5. Emotional Intelligence in Speech. Reading the room, how to sense hidden signals. Every conversation is layered with hidden signals that often speak louder than words. Have you ever noticed someone's crossed arms during a meeting? Or the slight rolling of eyes when a colleague speaks? These nuances form the foundation of unsaid emotions and thoughts. Body language is a rich source of information. It can convey discomfort, enthusiasm, or even disagreement without a single word being uttered. Then there's tone, the music behind the message. The same phrase can either soothe or sting depending on how it's delivered. A warm tone can welcome, while a sharp one can drive a wedge. Facial expressions add another level. A simple smile can radiate warmth and connection, while a furrowed brow might signal confusion or concern. Recognizing these cues can deepen your understanding of the true message being communicated. Tuning into subtle signals requires practice, but it's achievable. Start by observing others. When you're in a conversation, take a moment to notice the speaker's body language, their tone, and facial expressions. Are they leaning towards you, which might indicate interest? Or is their body turned slightly away, suggesting discomfort? Next, consider your reactions. Pay attention to how you feel in response to someone's body language or tone. Does their energy pull you in or push you away? Asking yourself questions like these can sharpen your intuition. When you pick up on these cues, adjust your communication to foster connection. If you notice someone seems anxious, soften your tone and offer verbal reassurances. Responding to nonverbal signals shows that you value their feelings and are tuned in to their experience. Try reflecting their body language subtly to create rapport. For example, if they're smiling, return the smile, or if they lean in, you might do so as well. These actions can bridge any gaps and build trust in your interactions. Being mindful of these elements can transform a simple conversation into a meaningful exchange, creating a space where everyone feels heard and understood. Emotional contagion, how your state transfers to others. Your mood is more than just a private experience. It radiates out and influences the people around you, often in ways you don't fully realize. Imagine walking into a room carrying excitement, calm, or stress. Before you even say a word, your energy sets the tone. People pick up on subtle clues like your facial expressions, your posture, and even the tiny inflections in your voice. Sometimes, those vibes ripple through a group more powerfully than anything spoken. This invisible transfer of feeling is emotional contagion, the human ability to catch emotions from those nearby, mirroring their joy, anxiety, or calm without conscious effort. Think about times when you felt drained by someone else's negativity or lifted by their enthusiasm. When emotions spread this way, they shape the atmosphere, altering how everyone thinks and interacts. Science shows that even brief eye contact or a shared smile can synchronize brain activity, making emotions contagious on a neurological level. Your feelings act like signals, creating an emotional current that pulls others in. It's no accident that groups tend to match each other's moods, whether it's laughter or tension, because humans are wired to resonate with the emotional rhythms of those nearby. If you've ever felt your own mood shift for no obvious reason while talking to someone, that's emotional contagion at work. It also explains why managers who stay calm in crisis can help an entire team find steadiness, or why a friend's enthusiasm can spark your own excitement. This unspoken emotional influence happens effortlessly, often slipping beneath our awareness. Yet, it holds tremendous power in our relationships, from intimate conversations to large social gatherings, quietly steering how we feel and respond. Being aware of this hidden emotional influence puts a surprising tool in your hands. You don't have to be at the mercy of others' moods. You can take charge of your own emotional vibe and impact the people around you in meaningful ways. When you cultivate calm or positivity inside yourself, you send out signals that invite others to relax or share your energy. This isn't about pretending to feel happy when you don't. It's about consciously choosing which emotions to nurture and project so your inner state becomes a magnet for connection rather than a weight that drags everyone down. Imagine holding a conversation where your presence gently lifts the mood, drawing people closer without saying much. Small habits make this possible. Simple things like softening your gaze, breathing steadily, and tuning in to how you feel can change your emotional ripple. When your emotions are steady, they become a safe harbor for others. People mirror confidence and kindness, even in tough moments. Positive emotions spread faster and stick around longer because they create a sense of trust and openness, which people naturally gravitate toward. One way to fuel your positive emotional state is to practice gratitude and notice small wins during the day. This shifts your brain towards spotting good things, which builds an emotional foundation that feels genuine rather than forced. Trying to fake it till you make it rarely works because emotional contagion runs deeper than words. Your body language, tone, and energy must align with what you want to share. Practicing mindfulness also helps you catch early signs of tension or frustration and redirect your feelings before they affect others. When you habitually bring warmth and openness into your interactions, your mood becomes a kind of emotional lighthouse, guiding conversations toward calm and cooperation instead of conflict. This is especially useful in moments of stress, where your ability to remain centered can help dissolve tension. It's a practice, like tuning an instrument, where regular self-checks remind you to maintain a balanced state. Over time, this habit doesn't just affect one conversation but builds your overall presence, making you a person others feel drawn to seek out when they want energy, clarity, or reassurance. Try this. Before you enter a challenging conversation or meeting, take a moment to breathe deeply and silently name an emotion you want to share, like calm, curiosity, or kindness. Picture how it feels in your body and imagine letting it radiate out as you talk. This simple step anchors your mind and sets a tone that others will absorb, often without realizing. It's a small action, but it changes the whole room. Remember, your feelings are language everyone understands, even without words. The balance between vulnerability and authority. Opening up about your struggles, your doubts, or even your fears can make your words feel more human and real. When you share a little of your true self, others see you not just as someone who talks at them, but as someone who understands life's ups and downs. This honesty builds trust because people sense that you're genuine, not hiding behind a polished mask. Vulnerability helps you connect on a deeper level, encouraging others to open up too, creating a sense of real sharing rather than just surface-level communication. But the trick is knowing that vulnerability isn't about oversharing or becoming a puddle of emotion. It's about being authentic enough to show parts of yourself that resonate with your message. Yet, understanding that true authority often comes from this very authenticity is what makes it so powerful. When you speak from the heart and admit what you don't understand fully or share your real experiences, others see that you're not trying to impress or pretend to be perfect. Instead, they see someone who owns their story and speaks with conviction because they've been through it. That kind of honesty commands respect, not because you wield power over others, but because you've earned credibility. People tend to trust those who show they're imperfect but still stand firm in what they believe. So, genuine vulnerability becomes a bridge, bringing you closer to your audience while affirming your authority as someone who is real, relatable, and trustworthy. When you blend vulnerability with a sense of authority, your words carry a different weight. It's not about forcing yourself into a vulnerable corner to seek approval. It's about allowing your real self to shine through, confidence and all. Certain stories, honest truths, or even moments of doubt, when shared thoughtfully, can make your message unforgettable. Be mindful, though, because too much vulnerability, without the backbone of confidence, can weaken your stature. The key is balance, revealing enough to connect, asserting enough to lead. Words are like arrows. When sharpened with authenticity, they land more accurately and leave a lasting impression. Feel the difference when your voice combines sincerity with conviction. It's magnetic. Practicing this balance means paying attention to how you speak about yourself and your experiences. For example, instead of pretending to have all the answers, admit moments of uncertainty. Saying things like, "I'm still learning this myself," or "I've had my doubts," makes you more approachable than acting as if you're perfect. At the same time, backing that honesty with well-grounded beliefs or clear intentions shows you're not waving in the dark. It's about speaking with conviction while embracing your human side. The more you do this, the more you'll notice people respond with openness and respect, trusting your words because they feel you're being honest without losing your confidence. One practical tip is to tell a story about a time you struggled, focusing on what you learned and how it shaped your perspective. Stories like these show your vulnerability in action and demonstrate that even someone who leads or speaks can be fallible. Think of a time when you hesitated to share an idea or admit a mistake. It probably made your message more memorable. When your tone is open and your words honest, others tend to relax and feel comfortable sharing their own doubts. That mix of vulnerability and authority creates a space where real connection happens, where trust is built not on perfection but on authenticity. Keep in mind, vulnerability isn't about tearing down your credibility. It's about making your words more human, more memorable, and ultimately more powerful. Chapter 6. The Traps of Weak Communication. Filler words, hedging, and passive language. Filler words, like am, like, and you know, often slip into our speech without us realizing it. At first, they may seem harmless, but over time, they can erode the confidence we want to convey. These words create a sense of uncertainty and can distract listeners from the message. Imagine you're giving a presentation, and each interrupts your flow, causing your audience to question the strength of your argument. It's like trying to swim with weights around your ankles. Your message might be powerful, but those fillers weigh it down. People often use filler words as a way to buy time while thinking, but this tactic can quickly backfire. Instead of sounding thoughtful, it can give the impression that we lack preparedness or conviction. Consider a conversation you've had where every few seconds, your speech was peppered with like or you know. You might have left that interaction feeling less than confident about your thoughts. This subtle habit makes your ideas appear less clear and can leave listeners unsure about your knowledge of the topic. To address this, practice being mindful of your speech. Record yourself speaking or rehearse in front of a mirror. Whenever you catch yourself slipping in a filler word, pause instead. A moment of silence can feel uncomfortable, but it gives your audience a chance to absorb your message. Embrace the pause. It's often more powerful than the filler. With time, you will notice how your speech begins to sound more confident and your ideas more compelling. Hedging language introduces uncertainty into our speech. Phrases like "I think," "maybe," and "it could be" suggest doubt and can undermine the strength of your voice. While it's natural to express uncertainty from time to time, overusing these phrases can inadvertently make you appear less assertive. When you hedge your statements, it may seem as if you lack conviction in your ideas. Imagine giving a recommendation, only to follow it with, "but I think it's a good idea." This softening effect can make your suggestion seem tentative. Consider, instead, the power of a straightforward assertion. Instead of saying, "I think we should try this approach," try "we should try this approach." The latter conveys confidence and shows you take ownership of your suggestions. It is about trusting your knowledge and judgment. If you are not entirely sure, frame your thoughts in a way that acknowledges uncertainty without diluting the message. Say something like, "Based on the information we have, this seems to be the best option." This adds clarity while maintaining a level of professionalism. Eliminating hedging phrases involves a shift in mindset. Begin to pay attention to how often you hedge your statements, and practice replacing those phrases with more definitive language. It might also help to write down your ideas and read them aloud until you feel comfortable presenting them boldly. Embracing assertive language not only enhances how others perceive you but helps you feel more empowered in your interactions. Passive language can obscure meaning and diminish the impact of your words. When you use "mistakes were made" instead of "I made mistakes," you distance yourself from the action, which can make you appear evasive. This style can hinder effective communication, particularly in high-stakes conversations where clarity is essential. Listeners want to know who is responsible for the statements being made, and passive constructions can create ambiguity. Being direct with active language is vital in establishing authority and transparency. Instead of saying, "The project was delayed due to miscommunication," rephrase it to "I miscommunicated, causing the project to be delayed." Ownership not only clarifies your role but also leads to more productive conversations. This straightforward approach invites accountability and fosters trust with your audience. To shift from passive language to a more assertive tone, practice actively recognizing instances during conversations where you use it. Reframe those sentences in a more direct manner. It can also help to write your thoughts down and translate them into active voice. Over time, this practice will build your confidence in speaking clearly and assertively. Remember, clear language is the bridge connecting your ideas to your audience's understanding. Each word you choose counts, so aim for directness and assertiveness. Strengthen your voice, and it will resonate with those you communicate with. Over-explaining versus under-explaining. Have you ever felt your words were launching into an endless orbit, circling around the same point without ever landing? Over-explaining is a sneaky trap many fall into, especially when nerves or the urge to be perfectly clear take the wheel. It's like trying to light a candle and accidentally setting off the fire alarm. Your message drowns in noise. When you load a sentence with too many details, you risk straining your listeners' patience, or worse, confusing them. People don't need every microscopic step spelled out. They need just enough to feel grounded, engaged, and respected. Remember that your main idea is the star of the show. Excessive information acts like background noise, pulling attention away from what truly matters. Sometimes, over-explaining comes from a fear of being misunderstood. You want to cover every angle to avoid questions or doubts. Yet, this often has the opposite effect. The listener's brain starts to wander, trying to hold all that extra information, and the core message slips away. Communicating clearly doesn't mean you have to describe every detail, but that you capture the essence concisely and confidently. Short sentences and well-chosen examples sparkle more than paragraph-long explanations packed with jargon or tangents. If you feel yourself rambling, pause and ask if all those facts really paint a clearer picture or just blur it. There's a powerful balance in knowing when to stop talking, especially when the urge to be thorough hits hard. A practical move is to listen for the listener's reactions or cues. Are they nodding? Asking questions? Shifting uncomfortably? Silence might be a clue they're lost or overwhelmed. Sometimes, less is more. Leaving a little space for questions invites deeper engagement and builds rapport. Over-explaining can feel like you're racing to fill gaps, but real connection thrives in the pauses, the unsaid, the room between words. Mastering this subtle art could turn you from a chatterer into a compelling storyteller. On the flip side of the coin lies under-explaining, when your message feels like a half-baked cake, missing critical ingredients. Leaving out key details or context can make your listener scratch their heads, wondering what's really going on. This creates a sense of uncertainty or even mistrust. When you fail to give enough information, listeners often fill in the blanks with their own guesses, which can lead to misunderstandings or incorrect assumptions. The risk here is sounding vague or evasive, leaving people feeling shut out instead of invited in. It's like handing someone a map with several missing roads. They might never reach the destination. Striking the right balance between too much and too little is an art, and it starts with tuning in to what your audience needs to know, not just what you want to say. If you imagine your explanation as a conversation instead of a monologue, you're more likely to provide just the right amount of information. Think about the puzzle pieces your listener requires to see the full picture, without overwhelming them with puzzle pieces that don't fit. Being clear is a product of trimming away what's irrelevant but thoughtfully including what gives your message weight and credibility. Finding the middle ground requires practice and awareness. One useful approach is to check in with the person you're talking to during your explanation. Their eye contact, facial expressions, or even a simple, "Does that make sense?" can be a lifeline. This invites them to guide the flow of information, letting you know if you should slow down and elaborate or keep it brief. Sometimes, the right answer isn't more or less information, but the right information at the right moment. The best communicators keep their audience curious enough to want more but satisfied enough to feel understood. Here's a quick challenge you can try next time you speak. Before you begin explaining something, pause and picture what the other person knows already. Then, plan your explanation like building a sturdy bridge, strong enough to cross without breaking, but not overloaded with unnecessary planks. This simple mental exercise helps keep your words focused and your listener captivated. How to replace like, with confidence. Many of us don't even notice when those little fillers sneak into our conversations. They often serve as mental pauses, giving us a moment to gather thoughts before speaking. Sometimes, they act as buffers during awkward silences or when we're unsure of ourselves, like a safety net catching us before we fall into silence. Over time, these habits become ingrained. We start saying or like without thinking, almost automatically. Recognizing why they appear is the first step, because they're less about content and more about how we handle uncertainty or nerves in real time. Think about it. Sometimes those words are just breaks your mind drops in to avoid silence or keep control over what's coming out of your mouth. Understanding the why behind these fillers is key. They often mask feelings of self-doubt or hesitation, creating a barrier that makes us seem less confident. When we're unsure, our brain kicks into a protective mode, filling gaps with sounds or words that don't carry much weight. It's a default mode that keeps us from feeling vulnerable or exposing how anxious we might be inside. Once you see these fillers as habits rooted in fear or discomfort, rather than signs of laziness or lack of intelligence, it becomes easier to address them knowingly. The goal isn't perfection but awareness. Knowing why they're there helps us choose to change them. One simple trick is to practice silence. Instead of filling the space with or like, take a breath and pause. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but that pause isn't empty, it's powerful. Using a moment of silence shows confidence, giving you time to think and speak with intention. When you catch yourself about to say a filler, try replacing it with a calm, deliberate word like well, so, or even just silence. This tiny shift can make you appear more in control and aware. Over time, practicing pauses becomes natural, and your speech flows more smoothly. Remember, confident speakers don't rush, they command attention through calm, clear delivery. Incorporate awareness into your daily conversations. Start small, notice when you use fillers and pause intentionally. Make a mental note or even say out loud, pause, to remind yourself. Another helpful tip is to prepare key points before speaking, so you have a clear idea of what you want to say. When your mind knows where it's going, the need for fillers diminishes. It also helps to develop a habit of speaking slowly and deliberately, giving yourself space to process each thought. These habits may require patience, but each conscious choice builds confidence and trains your mind to favor clarity over filler words. The more you practice, the more natural confident speech becomes. Finally, adopt a mindset that values the message over perfect delivery. No one expects you to speak flawlessly every time. Instead, focus on being authentic and clear. Intentional pauses are not signs of weakness, they show you're thoughtful and present. When you replace fillers with a moment of quiet or a purposeful word, you're slowly rewiring your brain to communicate with intention and confidence. Every small step you take towards mindful speaking makes a difference. This shift transforms speaking from a nerve-wracking ordeal into an opportunity for genuine connection and authority. Remember, confidence isn't about never messing up, it's about knowing how to handle those moments with grace and purpose. Chapter 7. The Charisma Equation. Charisma equals warmth plus competence. Charisma can often feel like a mysterious quality that some people seem to just have, but it boils down to two key elements: warmth and competence. When you think about it, warmth is that inviting glow that makes others feel at ease, while competence conveys reliability and expertise. Together, these two traits create a magnetic personality that draws people in. Imagine attending a networking event and meeting someone who smiles warmly, maintains eye contact, and exudes confidence. You feel instantly connected to them, as if they genuinely care about your presence. That's the magic of charisma at play. Think about it. When someone demonstrates warmth, they not only make you feel valued, but they also create an environment where you're open to sharing thoughts and ideas. On the flip side, when a person displays competence, you trust their abilities and feel secure in their expertise. Visualize a leader who inspires confidence through their impressive knowledge and warm demeanor, offering support and understanding. This combination is powerful and fosters trust, making conversations smoother and interactions more pleasant. Cultivating warmth starts with simple gestures. A genuine smile can go a long way. Practice active listening by showing interest in what others say. Nod, make affirming noises, and ask follow-up questions. This lets them know you value their voice and are engaged in the conversation. Consider sharing small stories or anecdotes about yourself, as this can create a sense of relatability. Remember, it's not just about what you say, but how you make others feel. People are drawn to those who radiate positivity and approachability. Developing competence is equally important. To be seen as credible, you must share your knowledge confidently. Keep learning and stay updated in your field. Whether through formal education, reading widely, or attending workshops, continuously expanding your expertise boosts your confidence. Don't shy away from sharing your successes and the lessons learned from failures. Authenticity is appreciated, and this balance of vulnerability and self-assurance can make you more likable and trustworthy. Combining warmth and competence takes practice. Think of charismatic individuals in your life. What qualities draw you to them? Strive to embody those traits. Regularly reflect on interactions where you felt engaged and inspired. What did the other person do that made you feel valued? Incorporate these behaviors into your own life and watch how it transforms your connections. Why confidence without empathy feels arrogant? Have you ever met someone who oozes confidence but leaves you feeling small or unheard? That's the tricky space where confidence walks without empathy, and it can feel less like magnetic strength and more like a punch to the ego. Confidence alone is like walking into a room with your head held high, but if you miss the cues around you, the nervous glance, the hesitation, the unspoken worries, it quickly turns into arrogance. Think of it this way: confidence is the engine, but empathy is the steering wheel. Without empathy, that engine speeds out of control and crashes into someone else's feelings. It's that subtle difference between a leader who lifts people up and a person who just pushes their voice louder. Real-world moments show this clearly. Imagine a manager who's sure they make all the right decisions but never pauses to listen to their team's concerns. They might come across as perfectly capable on paper, but their team feels invisible. The confidence becomes a wall, not a bridge. Or consider someone at a party who talks relentlessly about their achievements, eyes gleaming, voice booming, yet never asks about anyone else's story. That's not confidence shining, it's arrogance dressed up in flashy clothes. Confidence feels warm and inviting when it reaches out, not when it bulldozes through the room like a storm. On the flip side, there's something quietly powerful about a person who carries themselves with confidence but folds in the experiences and feelings of others. Their certainty becomes gentle instead of harsh. That's because empathy isn't just about kindness, it's about connection. It's recognizing that confidence doesn't mean having all the answers, it means having the courage to engage with others' truths. When you miss that, your confidence can sound like you're bragging, or worse, that you think you're better. And no one wants to be around someone who makes them feel less. The trick is realizing that being confident and being empathetic aren't two separate hats to wear, they live together in the same headspace. So, how do you grow confidence that shines without blinding? It starts by flipping your focus from me to we. True confidence doesn't have to shout or shove, it invites others in. When you spend a moment genuinely trying to understand where someone else is coming from, whether it's their worries, their dreams, or their frustrations, you're already stepping out of arrogance. This kind of confidence is magnetic because it makes others feel seen and safe. It's like the difference between standing on a soapbox and sitting down with someone over coffee. The second invites conversation, connection, and respect. It takes a deliberate choice to listen with curiosity rather than preparing your next big point. A practical way to practice this is to check in with yourself when you speak. You might be tempted to fill silences with your thoughts, but what if you leaned in to hear what's really behind someone's words? When you respond, instead of trying to prove your point or show how much you know, try reflecting back what you heard or asking gentle questions. It might feel awkward at first, like you're slowing things down or missing your chance, but your presence becomes a kind of quiet power. People notice when someone holds space without rushing in. That space lets their confidence grow into something more than just noise. It becomes influence rooted in understanding, not domination. Imagine a leader who pauses before making a decision to ask, "How does this affect you?" Or "What are you worried about here?" Suddenly, their confident exterior softens into authority that feels earned, not forced. This invites people to speak honestly, knowing their voices matter. For you, as a speaker or someone wanting to stand tall in your own life, this means your confidence will be remembered not for how loudly you spoke, but for how deeply you connected. Empathy isn't a weakness. It's the key that unlocks confidence that everyone wants to be near. Next time you catch yourself bristling with "I have to prove this" energy, pause. Consider how you can shift it to "I want to understand" energy instead. That tiny pivot changes everything, turning a potentially arrogant tone into an offering of genuine presence. Empathy isn't about agreeing with everything. It's about holding space for different truths without folding your own. When you get this right, your confidence becomes an inviting light instead of a blinding spotlight. Micro-behaviors of charismatic communicators. Charisma isn't about grand gestures or loud personalities. It's often built on tiny, deliberate actions that form a quiet but powerful presence. When you lean in slightly while someone is speaking, it shows genuine interest without saying a word. When your hands naturally gesture, it adds conviction to your words, making them more memorable. Small habits like smiling warmly, nodding at the right moments, or maintaining good posture might seem insignificant, until they become part of your daily routine. These micro-behaviors create a sense of authenticity, making others feel seen and appreciated. Over time, these subtle cues combine, forming an aura that makes people naturally drawn to you, often without realizing why. Every glance, gesture, or tone you use sends signals that influence how others perceive your confidence and warmth. Micro-behaviors are like the brushstrokes in a painting. Each one may be tiny, but together they craft a compelling picture. A simple tilt of your head can suggest curiosity or openness. Maintaining eye contact just a moment longer can convey sincerity and engagement. Even the way you pause slightly before responding hints at thoughtfulness and self-control. These small, thoughtful actions add layers to your presence. They make you appear calm, confident, and approachable all at once. It's not about perfection but consistency, like layering tiny daily acts that, together, produce a magnetic charm others feel without knowing exactly why. The key is awareness of these behaviors and choosing them intentionally. Practice noticing how your body naturally moves in conversations, then gently refine it. For example, when making a point, emphasize the phrase with a slight hand gesture or change your tone just enough to keep listeners hooked. Or, when listening, mirror the other person's posture subtly. This creates a rhythm of connection that's felt rather than spoken. Over time, these micro-movements become automatic, giving an impression of ease and authenticity. Remember, charisma isn't about perfection. It's about small, real signals that make you seem more confident and trustworthy. Pay attention to these details in your daily interactions, and watch how your presence begins to subtly, yet convincingly, influence how others respond to you. There's genuine science behind why certain gestures and tones have a magnetic effect. When you speak, your tone shapes the emotional impact of your words far more than the words themselves. A warm, steady voice can make your message more compelling, while a shaky or hurried tone might undermine your message's power. Confident gestures, like open palms or relaxed hands, signal honesty and ease, encouraging others to trust what you're saying. Eye contact acts as a silent handshake. It shows you're fully present and engaged, establishing a quick thread of trust. But it's not just about holding eyes relentlessly. Skilled communicators know when to make eye contact and when to soften their gaze, creating a rhythm that draws others in. These micro-expressions and tonal nuances turn simple conversations into captivating exchanges. Research shows that the way you deliver your words can change how they're received as much as what you say. Positive, deliberate gestures release confidence chemicals in the brain, not just in others but in yourself. Think of a gesture like a visual signal pointing to your inner state, calm, assured, and present. When combined with a warm, steady tone, your words become more than just information. They become signals of reliability and warmth. People tend to mirror these micro-behaviors unconsciously, which fosters a sense of harmony and connection. Practice speaking with intention. Slow down slightly, breathe evenly, and use small gestures that align with your message. These tiny adjustments might seem trivial, but they turn your words into magnetic beacons that pull others toward your presence rather than push them away. Chapter 8. Speaking Under Pressure. The psychology of stage fright and social anxiety. Stage fright often feels like an unwelcome guest arriving right before your big moment. It's the racing heart, the sweaty palms, and the feeling that you might just forget everything you intended to say. Our minds perceive pressure as a threat, triggering a fight-or-flight response that clouds our ability to think clearly. Understanding this reaction is the first step in transforming fear into focus. When we identify stage fright as a normal response, it becomes easier to manage. Recognizing that many others share these feelings can also create a sense of community. We're not alone in this. The psychological aspect of stage fright is deeply rooted in our experiences. Our brains link public speaking with vulnerability, making us anxious about how we are perceived. There's a common thread with social anxiety too. Both involve fear of judgment. With this awareness, you can start to reframe your thoughts. Instead of viewing the audience as critics, think of them as supportive allies. This shift can lessen the pressure and allow you to channel that nervous energy into something constructive. Once you recognize the mechanics of stage fright, the next step is to develop strategies to cope with it. One effective technique is the practice of deep breathing. By taking slow, rhythmic breaths, you can send a calming message to your nervous system. Try inhaling for 4 counts, holding your breath for 4, then exhaling for 6. This not only reduces anxiety but also helps focus your mind on the present, steering away from overwhelming worries about performance. An essential mental shift involves visualization. Picture yourself speaking confidently in front of an audience. Imagine the warmth of their applause and your own sense of accomplishment. This mental rehearsal can enhance your actual performance by reinforcing positive emotions linked to public speaking. Combine this with grounding exercises, such as focusing on your surroundings or feeling the ground beneath your feet, to keep anxiety at bay during critical moments. The goal is to reclaim your voice, not just in expression, but in believing in your right to be heard. Remember that feeling nervous is a normal part of being human. Use these strategies and give yourself permission to make mistakes along the way. Each opportunity is a chance to learn and grow. The more you practice, the less daunting stage fright will feel. With every step taken, you'll find yourself not just confronting fear, but transforming it into a powerful tool for connection and expression. Tools: breath, reframing nerves as energy, grounding techniques. Your breath is the simplest tool you own, and yet it's often the first thing to betray you when nerves show up. You start talking faster, your chest tightens, or your stomach feels like it's doing somersaults. But deep down, your breath has the ability to pull you back from that edge. When anxiety creeps in, slowing down your breath rewires your body's message from danger to safe. It's like flipping a switch that says, "I'm in control here." Even a few long, deliberate inhales and exhales can signal calmness to your brain and flood your system with oxygen, which diminishes the fogged, frantic feeling nerves bring. Try this simple breath. Inhale slowly for a count of 4, hold it gently for a count of 4, then exhale fully for a count of 6. The longer exhale nudges your parasympathetic nervous system to settle down. This isn't just wishful thinking, science backs it up. Studies show that mindful breathing reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, and improves clarity right when you need it most. So next time your heart races before speaking up, anchor yourself by tuning into your breath. Feel it move through your body, steady and reliable, like a quiet anchor in a storm of thoughts. Many people rush to push through nerves with power poses or pep talks, but mastering your breath first is like finding the pause button. It opens space inside so your words don't trip over your anxiety. You don't need deep breathing marathons. Even micropauses to breathe fully between sentences can calm the chaos inside. Your breath is the constant ground beneath the shifting landscape of emotions, a lifeline you can tap without needing anything else. Think about nervous energy not as a problem but as power waiting to be directed. Your body is preparing for something important. That racing heart and buzzing energy shows you care. Instead of fighting it, what if you told yourself, "This is excitement in disguise"? Many performers and speakers lean into their nerves, transforming that jittery buzz into sharp focus and enthusiasm. The key is shifting your brain from threat to challenge. This switch changes the entire experience. Suddenly, you're not fighting an invisible monster. You're riding a wave of energy that can lift you higher. Grounding techniques work like a GPS that brings you back to the present moment when your mind wanders down the what-if rabbit hole. One approach is to connect deeply with your senses. Describe to yourself what you see, hear, feel, taste, or smell right now. This might be the texture of the chair beneath you, the hum of a nearby fan, or the cool air against your skin. Anchoring in specific, tangible details quiets the swirling anxiety and pulls your attention back to here and now. Visualization is another secret weapon. Picture yourself walking through a successful moment slowly, calmly, with strong, confident steps. Imagine the sounds, the expressions, the feeling of ease. When nerves tighten your body, this mental rehearsal can loosen tension and invite courage. These tools are simple but powerful because they shift your experience from reactive to proactive. They teach the mind and body to respond differently to pressure, rewiring old patterns of freeze or flight into steadiness and presence. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to meet your nervous energy with kindness rather than resistance, and to find your center even when everything around you feels fast and uncertain. One practical way to ground yourself during an anxious moment is to press your feet firmly into the floor, noticing how solid and unchanging the ground feels beneath you, like a quiet friend reminding you that right now, you are safe and steady. This small physical act can reset your nervous system and help your voice come from a place of calm strength. Breath, reframe, and ground. These are your trio of secret allies whenever the spotlight feels too bright or the words get slippery. Use them like trusted tools in your pocket, ready to bring your best self forward. Turning fear into fuel for presence. Fear often feels like a sudden thud in your chest, a signal that something might go wrong. It's easy to see it as a warning to shrink back, to stay safe and silent. But what if that panic isn't just a threat? What if it's actually a messenger, trying to get your attention so you stay alert, not freeze? Fear in small doses can be a warning meant to keep you grounded in the present. When you learn to listen to it differently, it becomes a muscle that sharpens your awareness instead of paralyzing it. Think about moments when fear flared up, like stepping onto a stage or speaking in front of others. Instead of seeing those jitters as proof you're about to fail, view them as a sign that you care deeply about what you're doing. That nervous energy is real. It's your body gearing up to perform. When you change how you interpret it, fear turns into an energetic boost rather than a barrier. It's no longer a warning to retreat but a prompt to focus and anchor yourself in the now. Training yourself to see fear as a friend rather than an enemy is about shifting the story you tell yourself. Every time you notice fear, ask, "What is this energy telling me right now?" Instead of rushing to hide or shut down, breathe into it. Recognize that fear is signaling your attention. It pulls you into the moment, making you more aware of your surroundings and your own feelings. When you treat fear as an alertness tool, it transforms from a barrier into a bridge that connects you with the present moment. Some practical steps include pausing when fear appears, taking a few slow breaths, and asking yourself what you're truly feeling. Is it excitement? Anxiety? Enthusiasm? Often the sensations feel alike, but how you label those feelings influences what you do next. By telling yourself, "This is energy I can use," you give that nervousness a purpose. Instead of measuring yourself against a standard of calmness, accept it as a signal that you're in the thick of something meaningful, and that's a good thing. Turning fear into a tool for staying present starts with how you think about that feeling. When nerves hit, instead of trying to suppress them or wish they'd vanish, you can lean into the sensation and see it as a form of energy. Imagine it like a wave: rise, peak, fall. The wave is only threatening if you resist it or try to stop it. But if you ride it, you realize it's just water moving at that moment. Your nervous energy works the same way. It's moving through your body, asking you to pay attention. One effective trick is to take note of where you feel the fear in your body. Is it tightness in your chest? Restlessness in your hands? Pinpointing where the sensations reside can help demystify it. Once you've acknowledged it, redirect that focus inward, telling yourself, "This is my energy to use, not my enemy to fight." Instead of trying to push away fear, accept it as part of your process. This act of acceptance keeps you anchored and rooted in the here and now, instead of being pulled into imagined worst-case scenarios. Remember, presence is about being here, right now, with what is. When fear starts to take over, it's like a fog trying to obscure your attention. Instead of letting it become a heavy curtain, lift it slowly by reminding yourself that the feeling will pass. Just like the tide, nervous energy comes and goes. When you practice observing fear without judgment, it naturally shifts from a force that distracts to a signal that you're engaged in something meaningful. That moment of recognition can turn nervous energy into sustainable power, keeping you focused on your actual performance instead of imagined failures. In daily life, this shift begins with small practices. Each time you notice fear, pause, take a breath, and tell yourself, "This is just energy passing through." Make awareness your default response. Over time, your mind learns that fear isn't a call to retreat but an invitation to be fully present. The more you reframe your relationship with fear, the less it controls you. Instead, it becomes the craft behind your authentic, grounded presence, an invisible but mighty force urging you to show up fully. Chapter 9. The Art of Persuasion. Cialdini's principles, reciprocity, authority, scarcity, etc., applied to speech. Cialdini's principles, reciprocity, authority, scarcity, commitment, and social proof, have the power to transform your speaking style into something magnetic. Think of these principles as keys that unlock a deeper connection with your audience. Reciprocity, for instance, is about giving to get. When you provide value to your listeners, whether it's useful information or a personal insight, they tend to give back with their attention and engagement. They feel the impulse to reciprocate that goodwill, creating a mutually beneficial exchange. This principle encourages an atmosphere where listeners feel invested in your message, making them more likely to embrace your words. Authority plays a significant role in how we respond to others' messages. People are naturally inclined to trust those who exude confidence and expertise. By establishing your credibility, sharing your background or relevant experiences, you can encourage your audience to listen intently. When you present yourself as an authority on your topic, it's like wearing a badge of honor that draws listeners closer. They see you not just as a speaker, but as a trusted mentor guiding them through the content you present. Scarcity taps into our instinct to want what's limited. When something feels exclusive or hard to come by, it creates urgency and desire. In your speech, you might highlight unique insights or time-sensitive offers that compel your audience to act promptly and engage with your content. This principle transforms ordinary information into something that feels special and worth their time, making them more likely to lean in and absorb your message. To weave these principles into your words, focus on authenticity. Each principle can feel more powerful when it resonates with your genuine self. For example, when utilizing reciprocity, consider sharing a personal story that highlights your vulnerabilities. This openness not only builds trust but encourages others to share their experiences in return. It cultivates a space where listeners feel safe to connect. Your vulnerability might even inspire them to share their thoughts or questions, creating a thoughtful dialogue. Authority doesn't always have to come from credentials. It can be built through storytelling. When you share relatable anecdotes, you create a human connection that elevates your status as a speaker. Use your stories to highlight lessons learned in real situations. This method shows you're not just a figure spouting facts, but a person who has navigated through challenges and emerged stronger. Your audience will see you as not only knowledgeable but also relatable. When employing the scarcity principle, remember to strike a balance. Emphasizing a limited time opportunity can encourage action, but ensure it feels natural to your narrative. Instead of just stating facts, illustrate why that urgency matters. Maybe it's an upcoming webinar with rare insights or an offer that you can only extend to those present. When people realize they might miss out, they become more engaged and likely to act. The same applies to commitment. Encourage your listener to take small steps toward bigger commitments making them feel personally invested in their journey. As you integrate these principles, always reflect on the feelings you want to create in your listeners. Do you want them to feel inspired, motivated, or curious? Using emotional cues can bolster the impact of these principles. When a story resonates emotionally, it becomes memorable. Ask yourself how you can evoke the feelings tied to each principle. When someone shares a relatable experience, it sparks connection, illustrating the social proof principle. People trust what others have experienced. If you can weave in testimonials or real-life examples, your words become even more persuasive. Engaging your audience can be as simple as asking questions that provoke thought. When you pose a question, it invites listeners to reflect on their own lives, helping them draw connections between your message and their experiences. This engagement strengthens the bond, making them see you as not just a speaker, but a partner in their exploration. The aim isn't just to talk, it's to create a relationship where listeners feel seen and heard. Lastly, remember that practice is invaluable. The more you speak, the more comfortable you'll become with using these principles. Each time you take the stage or engage in conversations, keep these strategies in your back pocket. Reflect afterward on what felt genuine and where you can improve. Speaking isn't just about the words you choose, it's about the connection you foster. By consistently applying Cialdini's principles, you enhance not only your speaking efficacy but also the overall experience for your audience. Why trust is the foundation of influence. Trust works quietly beneath the surface of every meaningful connection. It's like the invisible glue that holds your words together with someone else's heart and mind. Without trust, even the most clever arguments or passionate speeches fall flat, they bounce off like pebbles hitting water. But when trust is present, your words become more than just sounds. They become invitations to change, to understand, to follow. It's the bridge that transforms a simple conversation into something deeper and lasting, a space where your influence can actually take root and grow. Think about it. When someone doubts your honesty or intentions, no matter how brilliant your ideas sound, you're more likely to be met with resistance or skepticism. We're wired to pick up on subtle signals, like tone, consistency, and authenticity. And when those signals don't match the message, trust slips away. On the other hand, when people feel safe with you, when they believe you share their interests and respect their experience, listening becomes more open, and influence takes on a natural flow. It's that quiet agreement between two people that says, "I see you. I value your time. This matters." The power of trust is something every great leader, speaker, or influencer knows instinctively. It's what makes a sold-out room or a heartfelt conversation feel effortless. When trust is present, your words don't just land, they echo. And those echoes ripple far beyond the moment, shaping future conversations, decisions, and relationships. Trust doesn't just help your influence, it becomes the foundation without which influence simply can't stand. Trust doesn't grow from a flashy opening line or a persuasive speech. It's built quietly, one honest moment at a time. That means showing up consistently, not just saying the right things, but living them day in and day out. People remember how you act more than what you say, so when your actions match your words, you start creating that invisible bridge. Think of it like watering a plant. Each small, genuine act adds up until it blossoms into something real and strong. The courage to be vulnerable also plays a big role in trust. It's tempting to hide behind polished speeches and perfect answers, but real connection happens when you allow yourself to be seen, flaws, doubts, and all. When you admit your mistakes or uncertainties, you invite others into the same space of honesty. It's like signaling that you don't have all the answers, but you're committed to learning and growing together. That kind of openness makes people lean in, not away. Active listening is another secret weapon in trust building. When you listen well, you're telling the person in front of you that they matter, that their thoughts and feelings are worth your attention. It's not just about waiting for your turn to speak, but really tuning in, catching the emotions behind their words and reflecting them back with empathy. This creates a sense of safety and respect, which makes your influence more inviting than forceful. Try this next time someone talks. Focus fully on their words, pause a moment before responding, and let them know you truly heard what they said. Growing your influence through trust takes patience, but there's an immediate spark you can create by being reliable in the little things. Show up on time, follow through on promises, and be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. Those small truths stack up, and before you know it, you're not just another voice hoping to be heard. You're someone people turn to, someone whose words carry weight because there's a foundation of trust beneath them. Case studies. Speeches that shifted public opinion. Throughout history, powerful speeches have had the ability to turn the tide of public opinion overnight. Think of Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. That moment didn't just inspire a crowd, it changed the way many Americans viewed civil rights. King's words were simple but charged with deep emotion and a clear vision for equality. His speech connected on a human level, making the struggle feel personal and urgent for millions. This demonstrates how a well-crafted message can resonate beyond the immediate audience and create lasting change. Another example is Ronald Reagan's speech after the Challenger disaster. When he addressed the nation, his words provided comfort and a sense of unity during a tragic time. Reagan avoided superficial platitudes and instead spoke with genuine empathy. His speech reminded people of their shared resilience and hope, shifting the mood from despair to collective strength. These moments show how speeches rooted in authenticity and clarity can influence and reshape societal feelings and beliefs. In recent years, speeches about climate change have also shifted public opinion. When politicians or scientists frame the issue as not just a political debate but as a personal story, people begin to see their own role in the crisis. For instance, Al Gore's presentations combined personal anecdotes with compelling visuals, making global warming feel immediate and real. The stories emphasized shared responsibility, nudging more people to support policies aimed at protecting the environment. These cases prove that a mix of storytelling, emotional appeal, and trustworthy voice can move crowds and sway opinions on complex topics. The common thread in these stories is that speakers who understand their audience, craft relatable messages, and deliver with conviction can drive a shift in collective beliefs. They don't just speak at people, they speak to them, touching feelings and sparking a sense of purpose. When these speeches are remembered, they often leave a lasting imprint on the culture or nation's outlook, making them powerful examples to study and emulate. Great speakers know how to tap into the core of human psychology. They understand that people are driven by emotion, not just logic. For example, King's "I Have a Dream" speech used vivid imagery and personal stories that stirred feelings of hope, fairness, and longing for a better future. These emotional triggers make messages memorable and difficult to ignore. Instead of just presenting facts, he's painting a picture that the audience naturally wants to see become real, which motivates action. Using storytelling is another key to persuasion. Powerful speeches often include stories that resonate because they're simple and relatable. Reagan's words after the Challenger disaster, for instance, told a story of courage and resilience that mirrored the nation's own struggles. Good storytellers create a sense of shared experience, making the audience feel like they are part of the narrative. That sense of connection is what turns a speech from mere words into an emotional experience that can change minds. Authority also plays a big role. When a speaker shows genuine confidence, backed by authenticity or expertise, it's easier for people to trust and follow their lead. Gore's climate speeches, for instance, combined scientific credibility with heartfelt concern, making the audience see him as both knowledgeable and caring. Authority reassures the audience that the message isn't just emotional fluff but grounded in truth, which encourages people to accept and act on it. Finally, effective speakers often use repetition and rhetorical devices to punctuate their messages. Repeating a key phrase or idea helps plant it firmly in the mind. Ronald Reagan's "Let's remember and we will rebuild" moments are simple yet powerful. These techniques reinforce core values and motives, making the speech not just listened to but remembered and acted upon long after the words are spoken. When these strategies come together, emotion, storytelling, authority, they forge a speech that can shift a crowd's beliefs and influence society as a whole. Chapter 10. Conversations that create change. Beyond small talk, asking questions that matter. Genuine questions can turn casual exchanges into deep conversations that enrich our connections. When you ask someone a question that gets beneath the surface, you invite them to share their thoughts and feelings more openly. Think of it as pulling back the curtain on a person's inner world. By showing genuine curiosity, you shift the dynamics of the conversation. Most of us struggle with small talk, but when we ask meaningful questions, we signal that we care about what they have to say. It opens the door for vulnerability and connection, allowing the other person to feel truly seen and heard. Consider how asking "How was your day?" often leads to a routine response. In contrast, asking "What was the highlight of your week?" delves deeper and sparks a more engaged discussion. You might learn about their recent triumphs or challenges, prompting stories that reveal their passions or struggles. These conversations can be like treasure hunts where you uncover aspects of someone's personality, experiences, and values. That transformation is not just about the exchange of information. It's about fostering understanding and empathy, building relationships that create lasting change in how we interact with each other. Crafting questions that invite reflection requires practice and intention. Start with open-ended questions that encourage the other person to think a little more. Instead of yes or no questions, try asking, "What inspired your latest project?" or "What have you learned from the challenges you faced?" These questions not only prompt longer responses but allow individuals to explore their thoughts more fully. Learning to listen and follow up with deeper inquiries can also keep the momentum going in these conversations. An essential element is being attentive to the other person's responses. When they share something meaningful, acknowledge it, and ask for more details. For example, if someone mentions a recent trip, you could say, "That sounds incredible. What was your favorite experience while you were there?" This again shows genuine interest and encourages them to express themselves further. You're not just asking questions, you're creating space for storytelling. This practice not only makes conversations richer but promotes authentic connections that might inspire future actions or collaborations, whether in personal or professional settings. Whenever you engage in a conversation, remember that it's not just about filling the silence or ticking off a social checklist. It's about weaving together threads of shared experience, curiosity, and understanding. Think of your questions as keys that unlock stories and emotions. The more genuine and intentional you are with your inquiries, the more powerful your conversations will become. The power of silence in dialogue. When conversation stalls, most people panic and rush to fill the empty space with words. Yet, silence isn't an awkward void. It can be a powerful presence that shapes the entire exchange. Imagine a moment where after you speak, you simply pause, without rushing to add more. That pause lets your words hang in the air, giving them weight and room to resonate. It's like throwing a stone into a pond and watching the ripples spread instead of tossing another stone immediately before the water settles. Silence in dialogue creates space for thought, feeling, and presence that words alone often can't reach. Silence invites the other person to step into that space you've created. Instead of fear or discomfort, it can induce reflection or encourage honesty. It's the quiet moment that brings depth to conversations, where misunderstandings clear up and real connection emerges. Sometimes, what's left unsaid speaks louder than what is said. When used thoughtfully, silence becomes a form of communication itself, a way of showing respect, attention, or even gentle challenge. It's never just emptiness, it's a conversation with its own rhythm and power. Think of times when someone has paused after you shared something important. That quiet held space might have felt uncomfortable at first, but it could also have told you much more than words ever did. When silence works in dialogue, it can slow things down enough so that both sides listen more deeply, not waiting to jump in, but truly hearing what's there. It turns a chatterbox exchange into a dance where silence and speech take turns leading. More than anything, silence helps your message land clearer and deeper, shifting a conversation from noise to meaning. Many people avoid silence because it feels like empty air they have to fill, especially when conversations get tough or emotions run high. But leaning into silence, even when it feels uncomfortable, often leads to breakthroughs. Start by simply noticing your own reaction to pauses. Instead of rushing to speak, breathe into them. See what happens when you remain quiet after someone else's words. Does their tone deepen? Do they add more, revealing thoughts or truths they might usually hold back? Embracing silence means trusting the space it creates to uncover honesty and insight. Practicing silence can be like learning a new language. It requires patience and kindness toward yourself when you feel the urge to jump in. If you've ever blurted something awkward because the quiet felt unbearable, you're in great company. Awareness is your first tool. Notice your impulse, then give yourself permission to pause. This simple habit, repeated often, transforms silence from something you fear into a powerful tool that draws people in, not pushes them away. Using silence effectively also means paying close attention to body language and facial expressions, catching the subtle shifts that tell you what's unspoken but very present. When you begin to make silence an intentional part of your conversations, you'll notice a change in how others respond. They might lean in, lower their shoulders, or meet your gaze with more openness. That's because you've invited them into a place where rushing off is no longer the default. Silence creates a shared experience where vulnerability feels safer and depth becomes possible. Try this. After asking a question, count silently to 5 before speaking again. Let the quiet encourage a more honest, thoughtful answer. Soon, you'll see how those pauses become moments of real connection and understanding, turning conversations into something that shapes not just your words, but your relationship itself. Building rapport that lasts. When trying to connect with someone, pretending to be someone you're not just creates a wall. People can sense when you're not genuine, and it often pushes them away, even if unconsciously. Showing your true self, warts, quirks, and all, plants the seed of trust. Authenticity doesn't mean revealing everything instantly. It's about being honest in small ways that reflect your real nature. For example, sharing a little vulnerability or admitting confusion can make you more relatable and open up space for real connection. Being authentic is like offering a piece of your true self without filters. It's not about impressing others or putting on a polished front. Instead, it's about being real enough to show that you're human. When you're genuine, others feel more comfortable being themselves around you too. Over time, this creates a bond rooted in honesty rather than pretense. Trust grows when people see you're consistent and true to your values, even in small interactions. This doesn't mean you have to share your deepest secrets immediately. Instead, it's about consistency, showing up as you genuinely are, week after week. People appreciate honesty, and it gives them permission to do the same. The more authentic you are, the more your words and actions match, which helps others feel safe to open up. Authenticity is a magnet that pulls people in because nobody wants to be around someone who's constantly putting on a show. Remember, authenticity isn't a persona you wear temporarily, it's a way of being. When you speak honestly, listen with genuine interest, and share your true thoughts, the connection becomes much more meaningful. People respect transparency, even if it's imperfect. When you show your real self, you're planting the first seeds of trust that can flourish into a lasting rapport rooted in mutual understanding. Building rapport really begins with listening, but not just waiting for your turn to talk. It's about listening with genuine curiosity. When someone shares a story or a frustration, focus on being truly present with them, not just hearing words but sensing emotion behind those words. Show you care by nodding, asking follow-up questions, or reflecting what they say. This makes the other person feel seen and heard, which deepens the connection faster than any grand gesture. People notice when you listen actively. It's like giving someone a gift, your full attention. Instead of planning your response or getting distracted, try to hold space for what they're sharing. Ask questions that dig a little deeper, like what was that like for you? Or how did that affect you? These simple moves signal that you value their perspective and want to understand. Over time, this builds trust because people see you truly care about their experience. Listening isn't about fixing or judging, it's about understanding. When you listen without interrupting or jumping in with advice, you create a safe space. People naturally begin to share more openly when they feel heard. This openness builds bridges. Your connection gets stronger because they sense you truly value what they have to say. Often, what's most needed isn't clever words but simply your presence and genuine attention. A good tip is to practice reflective listening. Repeat back what you hear in your own words. This confirms you understand and shows you're attentive. For example, it sounds like you felt really overwhelmed in that situation. It validates their feelings and invites them to share more. When you listen with focus and curiosity, you turn an ordinary exchange into a meaningful moment, one that lays the foundation for a lasting bond. People connect through shared experiences and interests. Finding common ground isn't about forcing a connection but noticing real overlaps in your stories or passions. It could be a favorite hobby, a funny childhood memory, or even a shared perspective on a challenge. These points of intersection serve as bridges, making conversations more natural and less forced. When you find something you both care about, the chat flows more easily and honestly. It helps to be genuinely curious about what excites others. Ask questions about their hobbies, goals, or what they're passionate about. Often, you'll discover hidden layers that reveal a lot about who they are. When people see that you care about their interests, even if they're different from yours, they feel closer. That sense of shared understanding plants the seeds for genuine rapport, which can grow into a deeper relationship. Sharing your own stories when appropriate can also foster connection. If they mention a love for hiking, tell a funny or meaningful experience you had. It's about balance, listening and sharing, not oversharing or turning the conversation into a monologue. The goal is to create a sense of chemistry that's rooted in mutual interests. Trust develops quickly when you show genuine enthusiasm for shared passions and make space for theirs too. Remember, genuine connections happen when you're present and interested, not just ticking boxes. When you find a common interest, it turns a surface-level conversation into something memorable. This common ground becomes a foundation you can build on, whether you're nurturing a friendship or strengthening a professional relationship. Over time, these shared bonds make interactions feel more natural, less forced, and more like reconnecting with an old friend rather than starting from scratch. Building a bond takes time, and consistency is key. Small actions that reflect your genuine interest and respect add up. Remembering details from past conversations, checking in with kindness, or following up on a future plan tells others you're reliable. It's these little signals that turn fleeting chats into something more enduring. People come to trust those who show up consistently and treat them with sincerity. Even when interactions are brief, showing a little extra effort can leave a lasting impression. If someone shares a stressful situation, sending a supportive message later demonstrates you care beyond the immediate moment. This kind of reliability shows you're someone who can be counted on. Over time, these small acts create a pattern that makes the relationship feel predictable and safe. Sometimes, when you follow through with commitments or show interest in their lives, it sparks a feeling of mutual respect. People start to see you as someone they can count on, which deepens the connection. It's not about grand gestures but about being consistent in your words and actions. This steady, dependable approach builds trust that can carry a friendship or partnership through many seasons. To keep your rapport strong, make a habit of checking in, remembering small facts, and being present. Even simple gestures like smiling, making eye contact, or sending a quick note can reinforce that you're truly invested. Over time, this consistency transforms interactions from superficial to genuine, creating a foundation that can support long-lasting, meaningful relationships. The way you speak to others shapes how they see you. Choosing words that come from honesty and warmth always hits the right note. When expressing appreciation or understanding, simple phrases like "that means a lot to me" or "I really enjoyed talking with you" can make someone feel valued. These small kindnesses help deepen the emotional connection, making interactions more memorable and genuine. Being mindful of your tone and words can change the entire feel of a conversation. Even if you disagree or feel discomfort, framing your thoughts kindly and respectfully keeps the connection intact. People respond well to sincerity and warmth more than to being impressed or right. When you speak with kindness, your words broadcast that you care about the person, not just about making a point. Remember, words are like seeds. Plant them carefully with honesty, warmth, and respect. What you say might seem tiny, but over time, these small acts of kindness grow into trust and intimacy. When you choose to speak with both truth and kindness, you create a space where others feel safe and eager to connect more deeply. That's how rapport becomes a lasting thread woven through every interaction. Chapter 11. The Future of Smart Speaking. Why AI and automation make human communication more valuable than ever. Artificial intelligence and automation are reshaping how we communicate, making many traditional methods seem outdated. With chatbots answering queries and algorithms curating our social media feeds, technology is deeply embedded in our lives. This tech-driven world might appear to lessen the need for human interaction, but in fact, it opens up new opportunities for authentic connections. When machines take care of routine tasks, we have more space to engage in meaningful conversations. Instead of getting bogged down in logistical details, we can focus on relationships that matter. This shift allows us to take a step back and realize the importance of connection, prioritizing genuine interactions over simple exchanges. As surprising as it may sound, technology could be the very catalyst for strengthening human communication. In a world increasingly dominated by machines, the human qualities of empathy and intuition shine brighter than ever. When you participate in a conversation, you bring a unique perspective that can't be replicated by any algorithm. Think about it. No matter how smart a machine is, it can't genuinely understand the nuances of a human experience. It can't feel the weight of your words or share in the joy of a shared joke. This is where our power lies. The art of conversation is rooted in genuine presence. When you engage with someone, they feel valued and seen. So, how do we harness these qualities moving forward? Start by actively listening. Strive to catch every word, every feeling behind them, just like you would if you were reading an old friend's letter. Embrace vulnerability when you speak, allowing your true self to shine through. Authenticity evokes trust and connection, paving the way for powerful dialogues. Remember, every time you communicate, you have the chance to create a bond that transcends the digital barriers that often separate us. Let your voice emerge from a place of sincerity. The next time you're communicating, whether in person or through a screen, take a moment to connect. Relate personally to the other person's point of view. This effort creates an authentic dialogue that can resonate deeply. By recognizing that your words carry weight, you leverage the essence of communication. Every small interaction counts. The way you show up with your message can either build or break connections. A gentle reminder: take advantage of technology to enhance your human touch, rather than replace it. When you combine the capabilities of AI with your innate human gifts, you enter a realm where communication not only thrives but transforms into a meaningful experience. How to adapt your voice for digital spaces, podcasts, videos, virtual meetings. Speaking through digital spaces can feel strange at first. The camera and microphone can seem like barriers instead of bridges. But your voice, the real you, doesn't need to get lost behind a screen. What makes your voice authentic is not perfect tone or flawless diction, but the way you lean into your natural personality and allow your unique rhythm to shine through. Imagine you're talking to a close friend who really wants to hear what you're saying. That sense of simplicity and warmth helps your words come alive, even without the usual face-to-face clues. This is the moment where your digital voice becomes a presence, not just sound. Your voice online carries the power to connect, persuade, and inspire, but clarity is the key that unlocks this power. Clarity doesn't mean sounding like a robot or forcing every word out perfectly crisp. It means delivering your message so that your listeners feel like you're truly there with them, not trapped behind technology. When you pause just enough, speak a little slower than usual, and enunciate gently, you create space for your listeners' minds to catch every bit of what you share. When your digital voice has that honest, steady flow, your words turn from noise into something meaningful. Think of your digital space as a small stage where you don't just speak, you invite your audience in. The trick is to blend your personality with clarity in ways that feel natural, not rehearsed. This might mean sharing little laughs, using your natural pauses, or letting your excitement bubble up just enough to crack the screen and remind listeners that behind the sound, there's a real human. Over time, you'll find your sweet spot, the voice and pace that sound like you but also make your listeners lean closer, eager for what's next. One of the biggest surprises when moving into digital speaking is how much your energy matters. If your tone dips too low or your enthusiasm takes a nap, listeners might wander off without a word. Online, you need to bring a little extra sparkle, not by faking excitement, but by allowing your genuine interests and feelings to color your voice more brightly. Imagine you're telling a story by a campfire. Your tone rises and falls, your pace shifts to match the moments. This same give and take keeps people engaged when you're podcasting, filming videos, or leading virtual meetings. Pay attention to how your energy matches your message and adjust on the fly. Mindset shifts happen here too. It's normal to feel awkward, off balance, or unsure when your audience is behind a screen instead of in the room. The secret is to treat these digital interactions not as performances where you must be perfect, but as conversations waiting to happen. This takes the pressure off and invites more authenticity. When you focus on curiosity, wondering who's on the other side and what they might be thinking, you start to sound more natural, less rehearsed. That little mental switch helps your tone find its warmth and keeps your energy aligned with what you want to share. Another tool is knowing your medium well. Recording a podcast is different from speaking in a virtual meeting or creating a video. In podcasts, your voice often carries all the weight, so you can explore texture, soft moments, bursts of enthusiasm, or calm reassurance. Videos let you add facial expressions and body language, which can relax your voice because you're sharing more than just sound. Virtual meetings often require clear, concise speech paired with active listening cues to keep things lively. When you adapt to each format thoughtfully, your voice stays authentic and your energy fits the moment perfectly. Start by recording yourself in low-pressure situations, reading a favorite passage aloud or telling a story to an imaginary friend. Play it back, not to judge but to notice what feels natural and where you might stumble. The goal isn't to sound like a radio host on day one, but to become your best digital self. Notice if you speak too fast or too softly, then gently experiment with finding a rhythm that feels easy and clear. Because digital speaking removes so much visual feedback, your voice carries the responsibility to keep the connection alive. Practice varying your pitch and pace in small ways. For example, try emphasizing one word in a sentence and lowering the volume on the following phrase. This promotes a natural ebb and flow that hooks attention. Think of yourself as planting seeds, saying words clearly and with feeling so they grow in your listeners' minds rather than bounce off like static. Over time, these subtle shifts become second nature, helping your voice land with the power and presence you want. When you're live or on a call, a quick grounding ritual can help. Take a deep breath, smile, even if no one sees it, and imagine your voice as a bridge reaching across the space to the people on the other end. This small act changes how your voice feels in your body and how it sounds out loud. Confidence in digital spaces isn't about losing nerves altogether. It's about learning how to move through them so they don't hold your voice hostage. The timeless truth: communication is not about impressing, but about impacting. Many people believe that being a good speaker means showing off how smart, witty, or knowledgeable they are. They think that if they can impress just enough, they're winning. But here's the secret: real influence doesn't come from trying to look good. It comes from making others feel something real, whether it's understood, inspired, or heard. When you focus on impressing, you're like someone throwing pebbles into a pond, hoping to catch attention. But when you aim to impact, you're creating ripples that reach far beyond the surface, touching hearts and changing minds. Talking to impress is often about showing off your vocabulary, your credentials, or how clever you are. It's like wearing a fancy suit to hide the fact that you're nervous or unsure. Yet, no matter how shiny your words or how complex your ideas, if they don't land with authenticity, they fall flat. True impact comes from connecting with others on a human level. It's less about how much you know and more about how much you care. Words become arrows when they are aimed at a person's feelings or needs, not just their intellect. When your words hit that mark, they come alive, becoming tools that open hearts rather than just impress toes. When you start speaking with impact, your whole approach changes. Instead of worrying about sounding smart or clever, you begin to ask yourself, how can I make this meaningful for the person listening? It's about creating a two-way connection. Think about someone you've heard who didn't just talk at you but really made you feel seen or understood. Those moments aren't about fancy words, they're about sincerity, empathy, and clarity. When your primary goal is to impact, you're not just transmitting information, you're planting seeds of change. That could be as simple as sharing a story that hits home or asking a question that makes someone reflect. People remember how you made them feel long after the conversation ends. If they felt truly heard or inspired, they carry that feeling with them. This kind of communication encourages real shifts, not just short-term attention, but lasting change. When you communicate with impact, people don't tune you out because you're trying to impress. They lean in because they feel touched or understood. It's a shift from being a performer to being a connector. And that distance between superficial impressing and genuine impacting often makes all the difference in building trust and inspiring action. One simple way to begin focusing on impact is to listen more than you speak. Ask questions that show you care about the other person's feelings or experiences. When you respond, choose words that resonate, encourage, or lift that person up. Instead of aiming to wow them, aim to meet them where they are. Let your words be like a gentle hand, not a loud noise. When your purpose is to help, inspire, or simply be real, your words carry more power, and in that power, people find the motivation to look inward, act differently, or just feel understood. Conclusion: your voice, your legacy. Every word plants a seed. Every time you speak, you plant a seed. Think about it. Each word carries the potential to grow something meaningful in the garden of someone's mind. When you choose your words with intention, you are not just communicating, you are leaving a mark on the world around you. This idea is simple yet profound. In conversations, a carefully chosen compliment can boost someone's self-esteem, while a thoughtless critique might leave a lasting scar. The power behind your words truly shapes your legacy. Consider how often you remember something someone said that made a significant impact on your life, good or bad. Those words may have altered your path, influenced your feelings, or inspired you to take action. That's the weight your words carry. By understanding this, you can begin to see communication not just as an exchange of information, but as an opportunity to connect deeply with others. The art of communication is rooted in how you express yourself. Every interaction is a chance to nurture relationships and foster understanding. When you communicate mindfully, you tune into your audience's needs and emotions. Being intentional about your language can have a transformative effect. It's about really hearing what others say and responding in a way that resonates with them. This awareness allows you to plant seeds of empathy, trust, and collaboration. So, consider your words carefully. Are you planting seeds that inspire, that uplift? Or do you sometimes find yourself sowing confusion or doubt? Recognizing the kind of seeds you are planting is the first step toward becoming a more powerful communicator. Mindful articulation is like nurturing a delicate plant to ensure it flourishes. It requires practice and a willingness to reflect on your conversations. Each interaction is a chance to be authentic. When you share your thoughts genuinely, people feel that connection. A conversation isn't just about exchanging words, it's about creating a space where both people feel valued. Being aware of your tone and body language enhances this connection, making your spoken words come alive. For instance, if you are excited about a topic, let that excitement shine through your speech. Emotion is contagious. When you express yourself wholeheartedly, you invite others to engage with you on a deeper level. Think of your communication style as a garden that needs tending. You can cultivate an environment where everyone feels heard and confident in expressing themselves. It helps to reflect on past conversations. Did you speak from a place of curiosity and respect? Or did you default to defensive responses? Understanding these patterns can transform your approach. Try to listen more than you speak. This shift allows you to respond thoughtfully, tailoring your words to foster connection. Challenge yourself with simple practices, like pausing before responding to gather your thoughts. These little adjustments can help ensure each word you speak supports a message of understanding and compassion. Always remember that the way you express yourself can leave an imprint that echoes far beyond the moment. Incorporating these practices into your daily life can make conversations more fruitful and genuine. Build a habit of checking in with yourself before you engage in discussions. Ask yourself what intention lies behind your words. Are you hoping to inform, persuade, encourage, or soothe? This self-reflection can guide you toward a dialogue that is constructive and meaningful. Your journey to becoming an impactful communicator begins with these mindful intentions. As you practice authenticity, you'll find that your words will start to resonate more profoundly with others, planting seeds of confidence and clarity that may grow into beautiful connections. You don't have to be the loudest, you just have to be clear, human, and authentic. When we think about being heard, especially in noisy rooms or crowded conversations, the immediate instinct is to speak louder, to shout over others, or to grab attention with flash and flare. But here's a quiet truth: volume doesn't guarantee impact. Clarity does. In fact, when your voice is clear and grounded in authenticity, it becomes magnetic in a way that noise never can. Imagine a calm river cutting through a rock. It's constant, clear, and patiently persistent, and that steady flow eventually makes its mark. People lean in when you speak simply because they feel like you're speaking to them, not at them. Being clear doesn't mean using fancy words or complicated sentences. It means saying what you want to say so that it lands right where it's supposed to. When your message comes from a real place, it has weight. Think of the time someone's words have stuck with you, not because they shouted, but because those words were honest and offered something you could understand and relate to. That kind of clarity is like a key turning in a lock. It opens a door rather than just rattling on the surface. Often, we're so busy trying to be heard over the noise that we forget to focus on being understood. Your voice doesn't need to be the loudest, it just needs to feel like you. The secret to being magnetic isn't volume, it's humanity. When you dare to be human, flaws, doubts, pauses and all, you create a bridge to your audience. It's as if you're saying, "Here I am, with all my quirks and questions." And that invitation feels refreshing in a world full of filtered, polished performances. People don't want a perfect script. They want the real you to come forward. Your authenticity becomes the foundation of your presence, and clarity is the building block that helps others walk across that bridge and truly listen. Trying to be perfect or polished can quietly silence your true voice. The moments when you stumble on a word or let a little emotion slip through are the moments people lean in closer. Those imperfections remind them that you, too, are human. Think about the last time someone shared a story with a laugh, a sigh, or even a tear. You didn't tune out because their delivery wasn't flawless. You stayed because they were relatable and genuine. That kind of connection is powerful, and it grows from embracing who you are, not who you think you should be. True influence isn't about commanding attention with megaphones or dramatic gestures. It's about being confident enough to own your unique story, your voice, and your perspective. Confidence doesn't come from pretending to have all the answers. It comes from showing up with your questions and uncertainties and still speaking your truth. When you do this, others feel safe to be real around you, and a ripple effect begins. People listen because they recognize themselves in your honesty. That's influence that lasts beyond the moment. It builds trust. Imagine telling a story about a time you felt unsure or made a mistake. Vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness, but it's actually one of the strongest ways to connect. Your imperfect humanity invites empathy, and empathy opens the doors to influence. When you share with humility and warmth, your listeners aren't just hearing words, they're feeling the heartbeat behind those words. This kind of presence is magnetic because it's grounded in truth, not performance. So rather than shaping yourself into what you think others want to hear, shape your message from what only you can offer, your genuine thoughts, feelings, and experiences. If you find yourself stuck or doubting whether your voice matters, try this. Speak to one person, real or imagined, as if they are the only one listening. Let go of the need to impress and focus on being clear and honest. Notice how your words feel when you do that. This small shift can unlock your confidence and bring your unique voice into focus. No shouting needed, just your natural, authentic self. Final call: speak not just to be heard, but to leave others changed. Every time you open your mouth, you're not just exchanging words, you're shaping perceptions, influencing feelings, and sometimes even shifting someone's life trajectory. Words are powerful tools. They can build bridges or burn them down, ignite hope or deepen despair. When your words come from a place of awareness and purpose, they carry an energy that resonates long after the moment has passed. Think about the conversations that stayed with you, whether because they lifted your spirits or challenged your beliefs. Those moments weren't just about what was said, but how it was said, and most importantly, why it was spoken with intention. Speaking with purpose creates ripples. When you choose your words deliberately, you claim your space and make your message matter. It's easy to get carried away by the need to be heard, but true influence comes when you focus not just on the sound of your voice but on the impact your words will leave behind. Personal stories, genuine encouragement, or honest feedback all hold the potential to inspire or heal, provided they're delivered with awareness of their effect. Think of words as seeds. When planted consciously, they bloom into lasting impressions that can change someone's perspective, spark confidence, or even trigger a quiet moment of reflection that alters a future decision. Your words are more than just sounds or signs, they're threads woven into the fabric of your life and others. When you speak with clarity and honesty, you create a legacy that goes beyond what's immediately visible. It's about speaking from a place of genuine care, not just to fill silences or make noise. When your intent is to uplift, to clarify, or to inspire, your voice becomes a gift, not just to yourself but to everyone who hears it. People remember not just what you say but how they felt when you said it. That feeling, rooted in authenticity and kindness, lingers and has the potential to shape their future actions and beliefs. This means choosing words that lift up rather than tear down, that challenge but also comfort. It's about mastering the art of saying what matters most, in a way that resonates deeply. When you speak with that kind of purpose, others don't just hear you, they sense your genuine heart. Your voice becomes a beacon that invites others to see their worth, to reflect on their own lives, and to feel inspired to grow. You start building a reputation not just for what you say, but for who you are when you say it. That's how you leave a mark, by making your words count, not just today but in the time to come. To start this process, pay attention to your motives behind each conversation. Ask yourself whether your words are meant to serve, to heal, or to inspire. Practice listening deeply. Sometimes the most powerful words are born from understanding others' needs and responding with honesty, not canned phrases. Use stories and metaphors that stick, and refine your messages so they cut through noise and reach hearts. Remember, the goal isn't perfection but authenticity. When you focus on genuine intention, every word becomes a seed with the potential to grow into something meaningful and lasting. Keep this idea close. Your voice is a gift. Choose to give it with thought, with love, and with the knowledge that your words are some of the most enduring tools you have to shape a better world, one conversation at a time. When you speak with purpose, you create more than moments. You leave behind a testimony of your heart's true voice. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not just for reading this book, but for choosing to invest in something most people overlook, your voice. In a world where noise never stops, choosing to speak with clarity, purpose, and intelligence is an act of courage. I hope these pages didn't just give you information, but transformation, a shift in how you see communication, and in how you see yourself. Because your voice is more than sound. It's your legacy. It's the echo you leave in every room, every heart, every moment. As you step forward, remember, you don't have to be the loudest person in the room to be the most powerful. You just have to be the most authentic. Speak not to impress, but to impact. Listen not to reply, but to connect. And above all, never forget that your words can change the world, one conversation at a time. From all of us at Mindful Literary, thank you for letting us be part of your journey. May you continue to speak smart, live fully, and leave echoes that matter.